Come on in.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is a different day than you're used to for the podcast. We're doing something special. Last year, I was hungover most days, and we were talking about football right before we recorded the regular podcast. Those of you that listen to those, you guys will know the voice that's coming to your ears right now. It is Paul Lungard from Pauly Sleepers. How you doing today, man?
Great, Juice. Great. It's finally here. There's football in 2 days.
Absolutely.
For most of the people listening to this, there's football right now.
Yes.
Because, it's just amazing. Thanks for having us. What we've kind of set up here and set to accomplish this year, which is a fresh perspective and something different for the fantasy football community. I couldn't be more excited. And this new setup you got here is absolutely amazing.
I appreciate that. There was a lot of time and effort put into it. The thing that I am the most excited about is the fact that something that was just for fun for the month of November that we decided to do turned into something that's going to be season long. I think it's going to be beneficial for the listeners, the people that play fantasy football. It's going to be entertaining for people that don't play fantasy football, and the people that want to win their leagues are going to want to listen. Because as you guys know, last year I won my league, and it was the family league that I finished in the bottom 3 2 years in a row. And then we did a, Pauly Sleepers November type thing for football because I'm a big football fan. Turned around and won my league. So
we talked about it, during those 4 shows, and I liked your team. Yep. And congrats. So
it went well. At one point, I had Alvin Kamara and Ingram
and Mark Ingram,
and then I ended up trading one of them, and that was a bad choice, but it ended up working out. I still won.
It worked out. We're super excited. Basically, we've really branched into when we were on here last year with you, and John Marksbanks called in. Jackson came in with us, and
you guys have built kind of like a little empire over there.
It's all Jackson, man. I mean, the research and everything has been me pounding the pavement and watching tape and getting started with this way sooner than I usually do. Now, I enjoy this more than the average person. That's why I'm here.
I could imagine.
And when you talked about this earlier, it's what we enjoy to do. And what I've heard recently that really has stuck to me is that the definition of a passion is something you do without being paid for it. And we are definitely not being paid right now.
Not yet.
Everything I have provided for you here, and we've done, and Jackson Mears also on the Pauly Sleepers team, and Justin Miller, is we have the website now, paulysleepers.com, with more rankings to come, but right now it's about 150 players with rankings, tier-based rankings, which we'll talk about later, and player notes that I've compiled over my own feelings, stats, everything. I'm trying not to get too stat-heavy. Jackson does do a lot more analytical. Mm-hmm. I try to do a balance of the stats, your feeling, just doing what makes sense, and just having fun with this. So we've got the YouTube channel, and that's what I started last year, week 1.
That's how I found you.
The Saturday night before week 1, I had been watching some fantasy football YouTube stuff and listening to podcasts like a football geek. And there were a couple that I listened to that I was like, man, if I wasn't thirsty for this information, like, you guys aren't bringing anything else to the table. Like, it was really boring stuff. So the next morning I woke up, and I don't think I took my T-shirt off, and I had my coffee, and I just said, hey, we're going to talk about DraftKings today, and this is the team I'm playing, and that week, week 1, the Rams played at the Colts, and the Colts were in a shambles, so I told everybody to stack the Rams, and we stacked the Rams all year long. And so it got off to a good first start, and then you having me on the podcast really propelled it into, now we've decided we're going to do not just DraftKings, but season-long advice, and that's what we're here for today. This is Pauly Sleepers, draft day advice, and players' rankings with all my players' notes. So we've got the YouTube channel, we've got Twitter that we've been really working hard on, and got basically 300 followers in 2 weeks.
And that's at Pauly Sleepers.
That's at Pauly Sleepers, yes. And then the website, paulysleepers.com, what you've got, Juice in the Morning, here is awesome. It's a great collaboration that we're doing. Just a little background on, what started this was, Jackson works with me, and we're both geeks, and we both, decided to, hey, branch out and, not just do this DraftKings, but do this season-long stuff. And it was his idea for the Listener League. And I'm sure most of you are listening.
People are very excited about it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of traffic going on dealing with that.
The Listener League that we signed everybody up for, it's free. There's going to be cash and prizes at the end, but it's going to be different than what most football podcasts do. Is I've heard of a lot of Listener Leagues, but you hear about it leading up to the season, and then they do their normal thing all year long, and at the end you hear who won.
Yeah.
And I want to know more about it. So we're gonna carry everybody who doesn't get their names drawn through the season, who trades for who's out there on the waiver wire, different strategies, who plays who every week, and just
do some shit talking too.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Yeah, and everybody that's name gets drawn here in a minute, they'll have the opportunity to call in on the show at least once, and they could talk about the best thing they felt they did to for success, or the stupidest thing that they've done.
And we're gonna call them out for sure on the dumb things they do.
And that's the other thing that Jackson and I were talking about today too. We are going to definitely stick our heads in the sand when it's warranted, and we're going to beat our chest when it's warranted. Not everybody gets all of these calls correctly, and if they did, they would be the expert. And there's really no the expert in fantasy football. There's Matthew Berry spends half of his article every week apologizing for the mistakes the week before.
I realized
we're educated weathermen.
Yeah, and I realized real quickly, my first years listening to Matthew Berry and the Fantasy Focus, not to give any free ads out there, Fantasy Focus is what started me listening to fantasy football podcasts, because before I was a podcast listener, I listened to all the Rogan and all that stuff. But listening to him, I started following a lot of his advice. It was working out for me. So I continued to do that same method. It ended up kind of screwing me over. So that's why I think that what you guys provide is, that if you're batting, 60%, 70%,
right, yeah, 60 would be just fine. It's like blackjack.
You're above everybody else that you could possibly listen to or pay attention to in this environment.
Right. So we're going to talk a little bit here about what we're going to provide this year, and then I have my kind of draft day advice, like what do you do leading up to your draft, and what do you do on draft day, and how you play, and mistakes that I've made and things that have worked for me, advice. And then in between that, we're going to break that up into my player pool rankings and talk about basically all the position players. We're not talking about kickers or defenses today, just all the position players. So we have the DraftKings, and that's what Justin and Jackson are going to be working on this year. So kind of the Pauly Sleepers team has branched out to, I'm going to be doing the season long, and Jackson and Justin are going to be doing the DraftKings.
I'm putting $100 of my own money up in the air for you guys to tell me what to do, and it is going to be the juicy lineup of the week. You guys look for that, because maybe you can win with me, you can lose with me, and you guys can tell us how awful we are because we lost you money, or you can tell us how awesome we are because you made money.
Yes, please post your screenshots of your winnings on my Twitter and help me out if you do well. And please feel free to go. Thanks, Pauly. Kerryon Johnson was a big stinker this week. So that's what this is all about. But yeah, we're going to have the juicy lineup, and that's going to be kind of our finalized lineup. And the way you have to do DraftKings is kind of fluid. I mean, what we do is you enter in the middle or beginning of the week in the pool, in the the different tournaments you want to enter, if you want to do 50-50 or guaranteed prize pool entries for DraftKings, and then you can change it up until the game time. So when we do our Wednesday podcast, we're going to talk about our player pool, and that's what we kind of morphed into towards the end of last year. Instead of just giving out tons of lineups, we started encouraging everybody to pick from a pool, and we're going to have the top players, mid-range players, and value Pauly sleepers, and then let people organically pick their lineups. But the one lineup that's we're going to bet most of your money on every week is going to be the juicy lineup, and that'll be the one that locks at Saturday night at midnight. But everybody is encouraged to keep along at the website, and all of our rankings and pools will be on the website because we'll be changing due to injury. But also have something on your phone like Roto Grinders or RotoDen or something that lets you know when your players get injured. I mean, if you're going to do this, it's all about that in the know now and going and picking up.
You got to be on top of it.
You got to be on top of your shit.
I mean, the paulysleepers.com, I don't know if we send it out there, but that's where you guys need to go, because they're going to be updating that regularly, and that's going to be kind of like we want to push you guys to that, because if you hear this podcast on a Thursday and then some of the information has changed, that's where you're going to get it. That, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff.
And we're going to talk about bankroll management too. You're starting with $100. We'll probably play $15 that first week, and that's 10 to 15% bankroll management. I learned from playing poker on PokerStars back in the day and winning money on that, and so that's kind of the thought process there. But the listener league is what we're going to be talking about here in a few minutes, guys. If you win, we need you to accept our invite when we email you. We need you to go on the website ESPN 5 minutes before the draft, and that's going to be Wednesday, August 29th at 8 p.m. So we need you to log in by 7:55. We're going to pick 2 backups, and if those people are willing to, log in,
jump
and be
in
ready,
at the last second.
I know I'll have a few people that will.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They'll volunteer. But on the Wednesday's podcast, we'll announce our player pools, and then we'll go over listener questions. We're going to have people calling in. We'll go over waiver wire pickups for the week, trades. Call in or email in and let us know. Hey, I got this trade offer. What do you think about it? I just tell people that if they're going to, ask me about a trade, let me know as much as you can about your league. How many teams? Is it PPR standard? Are there bonus awards? Because what I was saying on Twitter this week, and I think a lot of people really appreciated what I was saying on Twitter, is like, if you just blindly say, hey, this person or this person, I want to know more about your league to be able to better answer
to be
that
able to
question.
Give an educated.
Because if it's 2 running backs and it's a PPR, the guy that catches the passes, is going to be more valuable. So I need to know little things like that.
Absolutely.
We're going to do something topical every week. Justin, you had the idea to talk about etiquette in leagues one week, and we'll do that. Ways to personalize your league and make it fun. And we're going to talk about some things that have happened in my league of record, Russian Roulette, that has been just really fun and epic shit. So
don't be a fantasy football donkey, basically.
Right. Like,
don't be a jackass.
And the way to gauge it is, if you're in a work league or a family league and no one else is really getting excited about it and taking it seriously, then that's your only excuse. Really. If there's people like, if you're in my leagues and you mess around, you're out of the league. I'm not going to name any names. I already did that last year.
That's awesome. And that should be the possibility for anybody playing fantasy season long.
So that's kind of what we're about. We're going to start talking about draft day advice, and then we'll get into our picking the people for the league. We should probably do that right now. Let's do that before we start talking about the draft day advice. So definitely
we've come up with quite a bit of names here. So if you hear your name drawn, you're either listening to the podcast, watching the Facebook Live, or looking at the video on YouTube or something like that, definitely be excited. There's going to be money involved. There's going to be a trophy at some point. And you guys will also, I think, help us be able to develop this league for future seasons of this, or even seasons of this spinning off to its own podcast. So that's what I'm going to go with. And
right on.
I think we're going to shake up the Colts hat a little bit here. It is a bucket hat, by the way, so I think that's perfect for it being pulling names out of a hat. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and it rained buckets today, so
yeah, that was awful. All right, so the very first name from the Colts bucket hat is Dustin Roller, the Married with Children's podcast host.
All right,
that's crazy.
All right,
he's a great dude that I've done his podcast. It's the Married with Children podcast. They're down south. It took me a little bit of time to get there, about an hour and a half. But he's definitely a sports fan. He used to be a football coach. I don't know if he's still coaching, but I think he might.
That's fantastic. He'll get into this.
I think he might be somebody.
I've listened to their podcast a couple times, and I didn't get a chance to get with you on like everybody who made it to the entry. So you said there were a few podcasts that got in.
Yeah, so there's definitely some podcast people that are trying to be involved in the Juice in the Morning and Pauly Sleepers Fantasy Listener League.
All right, number 2. There are 8 total today. All right, so number 2.
So number 2, Jeff Fiddler.
Oh, Jeff. He water bet me that he would be one of the first 3 names picked, and he is so lucky.
I'm shaking it up, man.
He calls into all the radio stations and wins tickets to all the concerts. Like people that are listening that know Jeff right now, and he's also the commissioner of the Russian Roulette League. So
nice.
Yeah.
So also, while we're mixing these up, somebody commented, nice jersey, and I think that's an honest comment from Derek Gundam. He's also one of the people entered into the pool for the Listener League. And then somebody else said it'd be a lot cooler if it was purple and had the number 22. So I'm trying to. Who is that supposed to be?
That would be Viking, and that would be. That would be.
It's a running back, right?
I don't know. Kirk Cousins or Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. Matt Martz, if you're watching, tell us who number 22 is. If
I don't know. It's probably Stephon Diggs or Kirk Cousins or one of those guys, Adam Thielen. One of those
All right, so the number 3 listener, the number 3 entrant is Dylan Bolden.
All right, congrats, Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan.
Again, we're doing a 10-team league, and you have a team with
Shane, the co-host of the Juice in the Morning podcast.
Yeah, and I've got a team that I'm going to run with Jack. So it's us against
8 other dudes or chicks.
Yeah, Chloe's in there.
Yeah, she was the only one.
Odie would be mad if Chloe got picked and he didn't.
Well, now we can only hope. So this is number 4 on the list. So number 4 on the list is Josh Miller.
Oh, that's Josh. That's my best boo right there. That's my buddy.
So Jackson is watching right now. Thanks for joining the Facebook Live, Jackson.
This sounds so stacked right now, but I'm watching you shake up this hat and pull these names out of the hat.
I can only do so much.
If you call Eric Lundgaard next, then everyone's going to know that this is just collusion.
Daniel Barlow.
Oh, that's Dan. He's in the Russian roulette too.
So that's
Chef Dan.
That's 5 right there. So
yeah,
3 entries left. Is that what it is? Because we're doing
1,
10
2,
team league.
3, 4, 5. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, 3 more.
So we're going here. All right. Ricky Wilson.
All right. Congrats, Ricky. So good luck this year.
That's 6 of them right there. Ricky Wilson. All right.
Let them hear the shake.
All right. And that's another podcast. Andrew Gert from the Monday American podcast.
Oh, right on.
He does a lot of history podcasts.
Right on.
I can't believe that.
So far, this is podcast versus Russian roulette.
Yes,
that's great.
All right. So last one. All right. Let's get this one.
Oh no, 2 more. I think. Right.
Brian Titus.
Oh my God.
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 8.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's 8. Thank you, everybody that
Congrats,
joined.
everybody.
I want to just go ahead and pick the rest of the names and just give them a shout out on the show. So Derek Walter.
Okay, he's from Dreyer Reinbold. Derek would be a great alternate. So that's perfect. Let's make these first couple guys alternates. Derek would be great.
And we've got Gary Russell. He's a guy I went to high school. Thank you, Gary. It was a great time in high school. I don't know what else to say besides thank you for your entrance. Bo Matlock.
Oh, okay, Bo from Matlock Realty. Shout out.
Eric Lundgaard.
And my brother Eric.
And
love you, bro.
Paul Stickle. I hope I'm not ruining that.
Oh, Paul, you did get in. He emailed us and said, I hope I got in time. You did get in.
Derek Undum. He is somebody I worked with in the past. Great dude. Played a lot of fantasy football.
Thanks for entering, Derek.
Bumwine Bob, man. I'm sorry you didn't make it.
That's another
you were a podcast
right?
entrant, and 2 of them made it. You did not, unfortunately, my friend. But I'm sure we'll definitely
get nothing.
Definitely, we need you to call in during the year because I've loved being on your podcast. I love listening to your podcast. Definitely join in and interact with us. Ross Prather.
Ross. I'm sure his brother John's in there too.
And then there is Chloe Robinson.
There's Chloe.
And let's get through these last few. Matt Martz, sorry, buddy. You're watching the Facebook Live. You didn't make it this year. There's always next year, buddy. Blaine Hansen.
Blaine, thanks for entering.
Anthony Odie. And Chad Snipes.
Chad, shout out. OG.
Thank you to all of you guys. Thank you to all of you guys that entered. Like I said, man, we had enough entries. We could have done like a 12-14 type league.
I thought about changing it to 12.
But I think that'd make it a little bit tougher. But
yeah, 12 is definitely tougher.
The one thing that I want to say is if we get wild like traffic and people are like freaking out and they really want to do it, maybe it could change. But we'll see. We only have a week to decide.
Yeah, we can.
But you want to keep it at 10, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep it at 10. Never mind, guys. Ignore the last thing that I just said.
I mean, Derek and Gary would probably be like, yeah, go 12, go 12.
But no, everybody that entered in, I appreciate it. I'm just one of those guys. I'm such a inclusive guy that I just want to always get everybody in. But I know there's no chance that you can get that many people in.
Oh no, I'm glad you called everybody's name.
I think everybody deserved the shout out for entering.
Again, we'll email the winners, and then we'll email you information on what's going on. But it's Wednesday, August 29th at 8 p.m.
Wednesday, August 29th, 8 p.m. And I will also try to send you guys personal emails as well, just to let you know when. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then that way they can join. And then so what I really want to know is about your draft day advice.
Okay.
The stuff that you feel that we need to know going into our season-long league.
Well, number one, Justin, is for you because you said, do you mock draft or do you not mock draft?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think you mentioned that you had a year where you got really into it. And
dude, I did like 20 mock drafts,
right.
And that was like in one day.
Right.
So it was
and you didn't do well. Right?
No, that was my worst year.
Right.
I thought I was going to get Andrew Luck, Rob Gronkowski, and I think somebody else that was like a good running back.
And then you had a year where you didn't do anything and you did really well. Is this last year.
Last year, no mock drafts, went into everything completely fresh, didn't even listen to any kind of like fantasy football podcast going into my draft. And it was very organic, very easy. I like that guy. I'm going to pick that guy.
Well, Justin, I'm pretty open to new ideas, but the idea that you're better if you don't spend any time looking at it is absolutely out of this world.
You don't think that it's possible that maybe I'm just lucky?
There's luck involved in this, but that'll only get you so far. I guess it'll get you a championship in your case this last time, but I wouldn't recommend it.
All right, we'll I'm definitely going to be taking notes while we talk this.
If you do like 1,000 of them, you're really overcooking it. And the funny thing is you'll never look at your draft and think, oh, that's that one mock draft I did, because there literally won't be a mock draft that's exactly like your draft. The idea is to get an idea.
Yeah.
To get an idea of where people are going and what you're going to have to do if you want Tyreek Hill. Is he going to come back in the third round? No.
Yeah. And it always, from my experience, it depends on the league that you play in. You got to know your opponents. You got to know who people like, who they're going for, what they're interested in. Because in our league, our family league, there's a couple of really big Colts fans, and they take Colts players a lot earlier than anybody else. So if you like that Colts player, you might want to take them early because somebody else is going to take them.
We actually talk about that here in a little bit.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. You're getting ahead of me, Justin. No, it's all good. FantasyPros.com is where I go. This is a free plug, and you can do free mock drafts. You can pay a little bit of money, and it's not that much. And if you have 4 leagues like I do, you can actually split it up amongst the 4 leagues and say which one is a 12 team, which one is standard, which one is PPR. And I paid a little bit of money. It's like, I don't know, $12.98 a year. Mm-hmm. And was able to put in all the keepers in the Russian roulette league. So like it's even mocked to me, having those players off the board because it's a keeper league. So
that's a really good feature.
So that's something you could do. But if you don't want to do all that, you could just go to fantasypros.com and do a mock draft. You could still put in standard or PPR, and you could put in where you draft. Mm-hmm. So if you know that you're going to be the ace slot, and if you're in a league that doesn't have the draft order till draft day, geez, that's
our league.
That's brutal. Oh God, that's so brutal.
I don't like giving anybody an advantage.
Well, see, that kills the mocking because mocking is knowing
that's exactly
if you're 10th pick, second pick, whatever.
So the year that I got into them a lot, I would literally do like 5 picking first, 5 picking second, 5 picking third in a 10-team snake draft.
Yeah,
so there's no way I can actually remember how those drafts went.
No, you might as well forget it. So that's background you remember when I said tell me more about your league?
Yeah.
That's background that I needed because in that case, mock drafting doesn't benefit you at all for your family league. So that's why you won it the year you didn't do any.
Right.
So
because
there you go.
Well, and I also started thinking more about what I thought other people were going to do.
Yeah. So if you're in a league like that, then don't worry about mocking.
Right.
But if you know where you're picking, then go on Fantasy Pros and do some mocks.
Yeah.
Also, I'm recommending doing tier-based drafting, and that's what's laid out on paulysleepers.com. And the whole concept of tier-based drafting is that the players are in tiers based on their projected performance, what they've done in the past, what they might do, and then when there's a drop to the next tier, that's probably a statistical drop in performance. And it allows you to realize that, like, you don't get excited if there's a run on tight ends and everybody in your second tier that you like goes. That's your trigger to go and get a tier 2 running back or wide receiver that's still on the board, not to freak out and go, oh man, there's a run on tight ends, I should go get Delaney Walker.
Yeah. No,
Delaney Walker is the guy that you get if there's a run and you don't get who you want, and you wait and you draft him later.
Right.
So tier-based rankings, that's kind of it in a nutshell. And, some of these tiers is just one player or two players. Tier 1 for quarterbacks is Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, in my opinion. And tiers for wide receivers is Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Is the number 1 tier.
Oh, yeah,
and that's just because I feel like, if someone says I drafted Antonio Brown and they draft him over David Johnson or Todd Gurley or any of those guys, like, no one's going to say you're an idiot.
Right.
Like, he's only gotten an average of 10 touchdowns and 1,580 yards and 90 catches for 5 years in a row. So, like, that deserves tier of your own, tier of your own, And like Rob Gronkowski too, even though he's hurt half the time, he still deserves.
He's going to win you weeks every week.
So that's the tier-based system, and look up more of that online. There's tons of analysts that do tier-based, and go to paulysleepers.com and see my tier-based rankings and all of my notes. Know your league settings. Know the point system. Know, how many passing points for your quarterback. Is it 4? Is it 5? Are there rewards for big plays? Because you could turn on like bonuses on these ESPN leagues and some of these other leagues, and there's bonuses for a 40-yard player more or a 50-yard player more. And good God, like a Tyreek Hill gets very valuable in a league like
in those
that.
kind of situations, for sure.
So don't feel bad ranking him ahead of the consensus top 200 that you pulled from the website. And again, I'm not advocating anybody just completely go into their draft with my rankings. I mean, if you want to, cool, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But what I advocate you do is print out a top consensus, like and make sure it's a consensus of at least 5 different sites, a consensus rankings, and print it out as late as you can before your draft so it's updated with injuries. And then look at that versus mine and look at the outliers. Look at the guys that I have way higher than, the community or way lower than the community. And then look at why I like that player better or don't like that player better. And then make your decision. If you like Mike Evans, you're going to see that I don't. So if you go in and see why I don't like Mike Evans and go, geez, that kind of makes sense, then maybe we're onto something. But if you go, you know what, Paul, man, I like your shit, but I like Mike Evans, so screw you, I'm getting him. Then go get him.
Yeah.
Get players that you like.
Yeah.
But later on, when Mike Evans puts up 800 yards and 6 touchdowns and you're paying for way more than that, I mean, maybe next year.
Yeah, so so what would you say is the number one thing that you need to do? Because you just gave a bunch of stuff. Is there something that you didn't list that might be something that's very important? Or out of that whole group, what do you think is the most important for your draft?
This is something that coaches like Jeff Fiddler, who made our listener league, will do. There will be an injury slot on the team. So if a player is injured, you could put him down there and that doesn't waste any of your spots. Once the player gets healthy, you have to take him out of IR. That's basically a free slot. You can't put the suspended guys in there. So you can't put Robert Turbin in the slot because he got suspended. But Jeff will draft someone that's injured that he likes, knowing that as soon as it's inputted into the website, he can move that person down to website and then go pick someone up off of waivers.
Nice.
So if it's a 16-round league, he's got 17. And smart coaches like that will do that, and other ones won't realize they could do that.
Right.
In our work league last year, I didn't even realize there was an IR, and everybody knew I liked Alvin Kamara, but I was like, well, geez, I can't drop these guys.
Yeah.
And I had a slot that I could have moved an injured David Johnson down into and picked him up. So, we all make that mistake, but know your settings and know little things like that. There's leagues that don't have kickers. There's leagues that have IDP players instead of
I hate the defensive player. I hate it.
Russian roulette has 2 of them.
I hate it. I
Russian,
hate it so much.
Mike Dodd would like, or Doddina on Facebook. He's changed his pronoun.
Okay.
Doddina on Facebook would like that. He
Yeah.
hates that we do IDPs.
Yeah.
But we actually dropped kickers and defenses, and you get 2 IDPs.
So I might be okay with that.
Okay.
Hey, it's not
See,
my
Dodd,
league.
you're on an island.
It's not my league.
But if your league has big play awards and big, a bonus for a 150-yard game, a bonus for a 400-yard passing game, then, Andrew Luck and Drew Brees and Julio Jones and Tyreek Hill and Gronk, Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce, like all these players have more value. So just know that. And when other teams aren't focusing on the settings, know your settings. If it's 5 points for a quarterback passing touchdown or 6 points for a quarterback passing touchdown,
big difference,
then know that they have a little bit more value. And there's a huge debate among the fantasy community on this, and it's black and white like a lot of our world is nowadays. But some people think that, that doesn't matter, but I really, really, really think that it does.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
For sure.
100%.
So I've got thousands of questions for you. So I think, you've talked about that you're going to be getting into your rankings. Is that what are you ready for that? Or you still got more for your draft day stuff?
We're going to split it up. We got a couple more things. Don't have a set strategy. So there's, a zero running back theory. You've seen that.
Yeah,
or there's people that say that you've got to get a running back the first 2 rounds. Know your preference, but if things don't go your way, zig and zag. I mean, if your preference is to get 2 running backs right off the bat and you can't because it's dropped down into that next tier and there's been that run, that means that no one's drafted a wide receiver. So go get that Doug Baldwin. Get Doug Baldwin, get Tyreek Hill, get those guys that are.
For the longest time, I did running back, first 2 rounds every year.
In the St. Elmo league that I'm still in, that's 18 years, that is what you have to do. It's 12 teams, no flex, standard scoring, no bonuses, no PPR. You better get a running back the first 2
In the
rounds.
years that screwed me, took Adrian Peterson, and then he was out for the year with the ACL injury. And then the next year, I took him and somebody else that was a badass running back, and he decided to get in trouble for disciplining his child in an inappropriate way, and then he was out again for a year.
Same player.
Yeah, same guy.
Talking about the same
2 years in a row.
So let the draft come to you in that respect. There's many ways to get there. I advocate taking a quarterback early, and that's something else the fantasy community, for the most part, will tell you to wait on a quarterback.
I won last year, and I took a quarterback early.
I love waiting on a quarterback if I can get the right one, but I also love getting that tier week-to-week advantage when you can get Tom Brady or Andrew Luck or Cam Newton or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers.
I think last year I want to say I had Antonio Brown, but I think I reached a little early for Matthew Stafford, but he was pretty consistent most of the year. He wasn't ever dog shit, basically, is what I was happy with last year.
He's consistent. He's a guy that can win you a championship.
Because he was frustrating last year because there was games you knew that he could go off and then he just wouldn't go off. And then there was games that you didn't think he was going to do shit and he at least got you those double digits, almost 20 points. And you're like, cool, at least I'm happy with those a couple touchdowns and no interceptions.
I personally want a quarterback early because when I go back and look at the archives of the leagues that I'm in, and I've been in leagues for some of them 18 years, some of them for 10 years, it seems like more often than not, it's that top 3 quarterback that gets the championship. So it doesn't even absorb anymore when they say wait on a quarterback because that's my backup plan.
Yeah.
If one of those guys isn't available and I can't get them at a good value, then I'll wait and then I'll get Kirk Cousins or Matt Stafford or Phillip Rivers.
Right. Yeah, and just talking about the draft gets me excited about let's go. I'm excited to get into this and start watching football again, man. Can't wait.
Just a couple more things, and then we'll get into the quarterback rankings. Don't be the person that starts. Be the person that starts the run or ends the run. So that's kind of what I've been talking about too. Don't get caught up in the wave when there's that run. Don't let it freak you out. Start the run or end it.
Yeah, one of the guys in our league. Once again, just knowing your league. One of the guys in our league is the first to take a defense and the first to take a kicker because he's taken the top-rated one of those every time, and I always know it. I know this guy's going to do that every year.
And that's know your league.
Yeah.
So knowing that, you're not going to get the Jaguars. He's getting the Jaguars this year.
Or, who's a great kicker? I mean, I know you don't do
Gostkowski or
something like that.
That's all I ever say because I don't. Yeah, I spend zero time on kickers.
A team that kicks a lot of field goals.
I do have kicker rankings on my website. You could check them out. I won't ever talk about it because we've already talked about it too much.
Right. That's perfect. I didn't even catch it until just now.
We've already talked about it too much. The last thing is my brother Eric. I love you, man. He gave me the best advice when I first started playing this that I've ever heard. Get guys on teams that score. Mm-hmm. It's like a John Madden. The team that scores the most points at the end of the game is going to win the game. It's the most obvious thing, and Eric can get analytical, and he's brilliant. But this was just a straight to the point thing. So the Pats are worth more than the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to go on to our rankings, and people that want to skip to this part will tag that. So number 1 is Aaron Rodgers. So most people are on this consensus. This isn't a hot take. It's Aaron fucking Rodgers. If you want to make a take that, he's coming off of injury and his binky Jordy Nelson, who's always been on his team, is not there anymore. I mean, is that enough for you to raise an eyebrow?
You scared?
I think it should at least raise an eyebrow, but I'm not ranking him. I was tweeting about it today, and they were like, okay, well, where do you rank him? I'm like, still number 1. I'm just saying that people should think about he's coming off the injury. It's an injury that, Tony Romo didn't come back from too well, and his binky is gone. Jordy Nelson is gone. But other than that, definitely he's the man,
Well, I saw a meme that was like, build your perfect QB, and it was a picture of Aaron Rodgers, and it was like Aaron Rodgers' arm, Aaron Rodgers' legs, Aaron Rodgers' brain.
Like fantasy quarterback, he really is like the top Hall of Fame because he was in the top 3 for 4 out of 6 years. I mean, he is an absolute stud. He also gets it done on his feet. Yep. So that's where that little extra rushing will get you well, and 40 to 60 rushes a year. 250, 350 yards.
I guarantee you being the defenses against that guy is extrally fucking frustrating. Because I always see guys chasing him down, and then he just lets one go. And
him and Russell Wilson are the 2 top guys, and it's because they can evade the rush, keep the play alive, and take off on their feet if everything doesn't work out. And that is bad news and good news for fantasy football.
Absolutely.
So Aaron Rodgers, if you take him, you're going to be taking him in the 3rd or 4th or 5th round, depending on your league. Only do it if you feel really good about your first couple picks.
Give me Rodgers.
I want Rodgers. Throw his name up there. And if you have Bell and you have Keenan Allen and you feel good about that, then take Aaron Rodgers.
So do you think Aaron Rodgers is somebody that's going to be going in the top? In the first round?
No. I mean, some leagues they will because, doesn't Jen draft that way?
Yes.
So, she'll do it. Yeah. And
she always ends up for some reason with Drew Brees. I don't know how.
Yeah,
this happens because I think the way ESPN's draft set up, where they have all those players on the side, I think it goes like running. I think I want to say it's running backs, QB, then wide receivers. So she always gets 2 pretty good running backs.
It just fills out the.
Yep.
Well,
and she's always in the finals. I swear to God,
that works for her.
Yeah.
So Aaron Rodgers is number 1. Russell Wilson is number 2.
Really with Russell Wilson, this is just because once again I don't pay a lot of attention to offseason stuff. I don't pay a lot of attention to stats like you guys do. I always think of Russell Wilson as the quarterback that has let me down in the past.
Well, he didn't let people down last year. He was number 1.
That's true.
And that defense is not going to keep them off the field very much. They lost everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, Cam Chancellor's retired, and Richard Sherman is on to San Francisco, and Michael Bennett went to Philadelphia, and now I think the last man standing is raising his hand saying, get me out of here. And so the Legion of Boom is not that anymore. It's the Legion of Pew, Pew, Pew. I'm a little concerned. Schottenheimer is their new OC, and he loves to really run the ball. He hasn't ran an offense since 2012, but that's signaling to me that they're just going to let Russell Wilson do his thing, and they're going to need to. They lost Jimmy Graham. They lost one of their probably their 2nd or 3rd best wide receiver in Paul Richardson, and they got Rashad Penny in the draft, and they moved way up to get him, but I don't think he's going to be everything that people are saying they're going to be, and it's going to have to be the Russell Wilson show. So,
you worried at all about Russell Wilson's durability?
No, I mean, he gets away. He usually evades it.
Because the year I owned him, man, he was out with an ankle almost every week. He was questionable.
That's something we'll talk about later.
Okay.
And the advice is, don't let that guy that you had that messed you up and wasn't good that year. Don't let that.
I have really bad deals with that.
Well, okay, think about
I just always think about it.
Think about the guy who got Todd Gurley in 2016 and didn't draft him last year.
Right. Exactly. And then I drafted him.
And he was not. He had 19 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Think about the guy who didn't draft Melvin Gordon after he got 1 touchdown his rookie year.
Right.
He got 13 the next year. So Russell Wilson's a great example of that. Yeah, he was hurt a few years ago and he didn't do well, but he was the number 1 last year. And it's all on him. He was responsible for 90% of his team's touchdowns.
Awesome.
That's absolutely amazing. He's number 2. That's where I have him. That's where you should have him. They have a crappy O-line. I don't think that they've improved the running game that much. I don't think Rashad Penny is that great. This is the team that cut Alex Collins. I mean, why are we trusting them being able to do something with the running back position. Now they're saying Chris Carson is going to start, and it's making everybody scratch their head.
I've never even heard of Chris Carson.
He got hurt last year. He had one good game against the Niners and one good game against us, and he got hurt. But, they drafted Penny really early, like with the 25th pick. They moved up in the first round to get him. He should be the franchise, but I have a feeling that the office wants Penny,
right?
And Pete Carroll wants Chris Carson still. And to make things more complicated, they just announced that CJ Prosise will be their third down back. So they're going to use 5 running backs like they did last year.
Yeah.
And they had 1 rushing touchdown between the 5 of them last year.
Good God. I didn't even know that.
So
that's awful. Okay.
I'm good with Russell Wilson.
So Wilson at number 2.
He'll also rush 70 to 100 times a year. He'll rush probably about twice as much as Aaron Rodgers for around 300 to 800 yards and 2 to 6 touchdowns a year. Those are just bonus stats, and that rushing really, really helps. I mean, their O-line is extremely smelly. I think he's going to be running for his life again, extending plays and running with his feet.
Worries me with the durability still.
Yeah. Well, quarterback's the hardest thing to rank this year because you can make a case for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's tough. I mean, there's really 20 very good quarterbacks that, 10 of them are going to be in the top 10 and be good draft picks, and 10 of them aren't.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to help you with today. But this has been my hardest position to evaluate.
Who's next?
Tom Brady, terrific Tom.
So that's another one, man, because people are saying he's getting old.
Yeah, I mean, like him and Fitzgerald, they'll let you know when they're fucking done, and they're going to be really good up until that day.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it. I mean, yes, one of these years it's going to go off the rails. I'm hoping that happens in the off season,
right,
and not during the season. It's going to look bad. If it happens during the season, it's going to be like, geez, Tom, you pushed it too much.
Right.
But if he's pushing it that much, I think he's really confident. This elastic fucking rubber band thing he's got going on is really working for him, And Tom Brady here in Indianapolis, the Patriots will dip, and your Colts will be overdrafted. The Patriots will be underdrafted. People don't want. If you like fantasy football and you can stomach it, I did last year. Take him. I mean,
my very first year drafting a Patriots player, I won my league. I refused to for the last 10 years of playing fantasy football.
You just got to decide you want to win, man. Tom's a winner, and
fuck it.
Yeah, Matt. Mad props. I mean, I've been in the Russian Roulette League I think 8 years now, and I got to the finals 2 years in a row, but I'd never won it. Last year I drafted Tom Brady. I drafted him really early, and everybody went wow, and everybody handed me the trophy later on.
There you go.
What's more likely to happen? He's going to do his thing. This is one of these. One of the kind of overlying themes of this whole year is what's more likely to happen. So what's more likely to happen? Is he going to do his thing, or is he not going to do his thing? Yeah,
absolutely.
All right?
I'm in on that.
Father Time hasn't caught up to him yet. You can draft one of these top quarterbacks early, and the reason why I advocate it is it allows you to forget about that position for the rest of the draft.
Yep.
So if you can get a top quarterback or a top tight end, it's really hard to do both. But if you can do that, lock that, load it, set it, and forget it. Don't draft another tight end. Don't draft another quarterback. That lets you get another running back or wide receiver. And if you wait too long and you have to stream, guess what? Every week you're going to be using your first waiver wire ad as a quarterback and not being able to pick up Evan Ingram or Alvin Kamara or Juju Smith-Schuster. Right. So if you want to stream quarterbacks, that's fine. But the danger that the analysts I never hear tell you, the downside, the deep, dark part they don't talk about is the streaming quarterback thing only worked for them because they know every week what the best pick is. So they're like, oh, yep, this week it's Tyrod Taylor. And yep, there it was. Well, at home, you don't always make that call. And if you're so worried about doing that, you can't pick up the next Juju Smith-Schuster off the waiver wire. So that's why I like getting these guys. Number 4 is Cam Newton, Superman. They have a new OC in Norv Turner. Norv Turner likes throwing to the tight end. Greg Olsen is back healthy now. Cam Newton likes throwing to his tight end. So does Norv Turner. I think Olsen has a career year. They drafted DJ Chark. So they have more weapons to go with Curtis Samuel, Devin Funchess, who the Honey Funchess of Oats. I mean, he was a top 24. Can you believe that? He was in the top 24 wide receivers last year after Olsen went down, after they needed somebody. He performed great. So he's somebody that people aren't talking about, but he's going to help propel that team. Christian McCaffrey in his second year, and then they went out and got C.J. Anderson. So they had the guy that went to New York, Jonathan Stewart, The Daily Show, went to New York. and they got CJ Anderson, so they're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to throw it to their tight end a lot. I don't think they're going to limit Cam, and they're going to just keep I mean, here we go, another running quarterback.
Right.
So far, Tom's the only one that doesn't run that we've talked about. It's that adds so much value.
It just adds value in your fantasy league for your season long, for sure.
He's like a second running back for you. He's a lock for 6 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's the upside for some of these other running quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And in his top year, he had 14 touchdowns rushing himself.
Jesus. Which year was that? Was that second year?
Second or third year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and these other guys are going to rush 40 times. What I say, Wilson 60 times. He's going to probably rush about 90 carries.
Right.
I mean,
and they give it to him in the goal line sometimes because he's just a beast of a dude.
Exactly. I say he finishes once again at the top 5 at his position. The one thing we want to monitor is they had an offensive lineman go down, and they did lose one of their best offensive linemen to the Jaguars. And I want to peel back from a player that I'm getting too excited about when the offensive line starts getting hurt.
Oh yeah.
So really, they should have had time to get rid of to get used to Norwell not being there. But just today in camp, one of their top guards went down. So if that keeps happening, or if the guys that come in to back them up aren't doing well, I mean, this is why you're going to want to go to the website. This is my rankings today. Training camp just started, so throughout this next month is going to be the most crucial. Go onto the website. Jackson will update it and put the day that he updated it on there. But today, my number 4 is Cam Newton. My number 5 is Drew Brees. And that might surprise a lot of people because he had an off year last year.
Well, Drew Brees is never going to surprise me because he's somebody that I feel like he's just so talented that he's going to win. I mean, he's going to score. He's going to win. He's going to win games, I feel like.
And that team is just so explosive. They had one of the best rookie drafts I've seen in a long time, drafting Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore in the secondary. I mean, that is just huge. And here's the reason why I like Drew Brees. He finished outside the top 10 last year, and that's abnormal for him. For me, it's what's most likely to happen.
Once again.
So, and something has happened that should lend us to think that Drew Brees is going to do his thing once again. Mark Ingram has been suspended. Alvin Kamara's value is more so in the passing game. They're going to have to come out passing like they're used to, and they're going to remember how fun it was.
And they've got such studs at wide receiver.
Yeah, and they got, they drafted a great guy, Daquan Smith. They got Cam Meredith from the Bears, Michael Thomas, obviously, who we'll talk about in a minute. But that attack is huge. I think having Ingram going down is going to force them to go back to what they were. And like I said, they're going to remember that they liked it.
Right.
Their bye week is week 6, so I don't think we see much Ingram till week 7. That's almost halfway through the year. If they're winning, they're going to pass like they always do. I mean, last year was an outlier.
Right.
That's what you have to look at some of these players. Russell Wilson is usually great. That year he got hurt and sucked for you, that was an outlier.
Yeah. It's just, it hasn't gone well for me for a few years, and then all of a sudden everything clicked, and it's going to happen again this year. I'm feeling it.
I've thought about this long and hard, and this is not a homer call. This is just from all my research. And earlier in the spring, I was worried about Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
But right now, he's my number 6 quarterback.
Number 6.
The community is reacting to him playing, and he's been moved from number 14 to number, I think, 9 today in the average draft position. I've had him ahead of that, for a minute because I'm on board. They did it right this time. They brought him back right. They did it the right way.
Everybody says he looks like a monster from camp.
He does. Have you seen the picture of him getting off his bike with the water belt?
Stick, just twist the top one, I think. It should tighten it.
Okay,
I know it's hard to.
I got you. So did you see the picture at the 500 where he showed up on his bike and had the water bottle and stuff? He looked ripped. He showed up at the race looking like he.
At least he's been working out, right?
Yeah. You would think. So, the whole conspiracy, and your show gets into conspiracies. The whole conspiracy was that he had a career-ending injury, and I kind of bought into it for a minute. But
fucking microphone.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. The reality is, it just never happens. This is good.
There you go.
The reality is, it just never happens. Drew Brees was supposed to be done 10 years ago, and he was never going to throw again. And Teddy B broke his leg into 2 pieces last year and was never going to walk again. And he might be the starter for the Jets week 1.
That's crazy, I think.
So, the other thing about Andrew Luck is they've done well to shore up the line, which is something we need for we've needed for a long time. They went out and traded that pick to get a couple picks later, which should let you know that he's fine because this was a quarterback-rich draft. So if they needed a quarterback and Andrew Luck was done and there's conspiracy is not out yet, they would have not traded that pick to the Jets. They would have drafted a quarterback with the sixth pick. Instead, their guy all along was Quentin Nelson. He is a beast. The Mountain is
I've heard he looks like a gigantic human.
So at Pauly Sleepers, we call him the Mountain.
I like that. I'm in on that.
So they drafted somebody else too from Auburn a few picks later. They went and picked up a guy that started 16 games for the Ravens last year to kind of give that rookie some time to get in. But Nelson doesn't need time. I mean, he's ready to move turf.
Yeah.
The guy knows Taekwondo. He was out benching NFL linemen in high school.
Yeah, that's insane.
He's ready to play football. He was born to play football. So this guy's in front of Andrew Luck.
I can't wait I want to watch him pancake people. Like, I can't wait to watch it.
Well, he will. I mean, like, the draft notes that I read were, as soon as we drafted him, I started looking at draft notes. One of the draft notes were he finishes his defender on the ground. Mm-hmm. So the person lined up against him ends up on the ground more times than not.
I can't wait.
And that renders you ineffective.
It's going to be one of the first times that I think I've ever, truly decided to watch the line.
Absolutely. No one's been excited about a lineman. I mean, it's not just hype though, people. Like, he has been the top rated lineman on playerprofiler.com that they've tested since the year 2000. So we're not talking about a guy that there's a big hype on and he's going to be Boswell. I remember Brian Boswell was going to be great. He sucked. This isn't Brian Boswell. This guy was born to play football, and he's in front of Andrew Luck. So
Luck is number 6.
Yeah, and the last note on Luck is, if you look at the stats, after his injury, and he played almost 2 years with that shoulder injury, after his injury, his stats were nearly identical than what they were before his injury, and almost the identical fantasy production. So if he's healthy, and he's healthy right now, you know what you're going to get from him, and that's a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson is number 7. I've seen him as high as 2.
God, I can't wait to watch him play football either. I forgot. This is why I'm so excited for football.
He got hurt.
It's so sad that I don't pay attention and I forget about it in the off months because I forgot about how awesome it was to watch him.
He got hurt.
The games he was playing.
He did something really special in those.
And I want games. Will Fuller now. And I know we're not to wide receivers yet. I'm sorry, but
Notre Dame guy Will Fuller, like Jeff will want him too. Talk about knowing your league. That guy right there, Jeff, he'll go get Will Fuller. And I think Will Fuller had 5 touchdowns in 3 games. It was something crazy, 8 catches for 5 touchdowns in 3 games.
I had him early on in the year too.
I have him lower than most because it's not sustainable. Yeah. He has one of the worst ball velocities in the league. So he's living off those deep plays, which you can live to a certain extent with DeAndre Hopkins doing that. But right now I don't see him being able to whip it in on short slants and things like that and be able to bring it to the next level.
Right.
He's going to have to continue to get, and he does run the ball well too. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. I have him rated lower than most because
you still have him in the top 10 though.
Yeah, but most have him 2, 3, or 4. So 7 is kind of low.
I agree on you or with you.
7 is kind of low for the community as a standpoint, but his touchdown rate was one of the highest since the merger.
Right.
Him and Carson Wentz both. Had insane touchdown rates. So if you throw 600 passes, you're statted out for 48 touchdowns because you have this 8% touchdown rate. The league average is 6. Mm-hmm. If you go back to the league average, that 2% difference there goes from 48 to 36 touchdowns. So that's 25% of those touchdowns. We're in a touchdown-dependent league. I don't see him having a 40 touchdown upside, and I think that's why people are drafting him that way. I think that he'll get 25 to 28, 30. He's a great player, but his touchdown rate is not sustainable. It never has been, okay? One more thought on the touchdown rate. Some of the best touchdown rates that Wentz and Watson both had were up against Peyton Manning's best year and Aaron Rodgers' best year, where they had 8 to 9% touchdown rates, which is insanity. Both of them went 2 to 2.5% back regression to the mean the next year. It's not a stat that's helpful to win an argument. It's a statistical fact.
Yeah.
So he's not going to, and also you project that out. I mean, that was over 6 games. If you project that out over 16 games, that doesn't keep happening. I mean, it was just an unsustainable rate. He's great. I'm looking forward to watching him play again too.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that could totally bite me in the ass. This is the guy that, like, he could be the number one.
Yeah.
He could be the number one next year, and that's, the game that we're playing. And like I said before, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are in the first tier. Brady, Cam Newton, Breeze, Luck, and Watson are in the second tier. And now we're moving to the next tier, meaning if those guys are gone, you can wait a little bit longer to draft. Perhaps you didn't do this in your league last year. It sounds like you got Stafford really early, but you can usually wait and get him like between 8 and 10.
I'm trying to remember, man. That's why I'm so bad about this. I can't.
He's at the top of this tier because he's so consistent, and he'll get 4,000 yards, and he'll get 28 to 35 touchdowns. And his offensive coordinator for the second year in a row is Jim Bob Cooter. Yeah. How can you not get down with a guy that their offensive coordinator is Jim Bob Cooter?
I love the Cooter.
Yes,
I'm a big fan of the Cooter.
We all love the Cooter, Justin. His floor is 4,200 yards, 22 touchdowns. His ceiling is about 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. He could sneak into the top 5. They drafted Luke Ragnaw, who's just been killing in practice. He's the center. Their line's going to be better. They still have Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, and Kenny Galladay.
I had Golden Tate last year too.
He's fantastic.
He's one of my favorite guys to watch as well.
Fantastic. I remember you asked me about, like, should I start him, or I said I don't need to know the or.
Yeah.
Like, stop right there. And you were like, but it's. I was like, no, just stop. Just just start Golden Tate.
Just start the Tate.
So I think Matt Stafford's going to be great this year, and he has a very easy early schedule, which we can get him off to a hot start. And when these quarterbacks get off to a hot start, that could be a sign of a very hot season. His completion percentage, his quarterback rating, were the best we've ever seen in his career last year, and I don't think he had his career year yet.
No.
I think this could be it.
Hell no. And give old Cooter the play calling ability, man, and he's good to go. I'm all in on Matt Stafford again. I think I'm going to write some notes down here.
I love it. You could just go to paulysleepers.com and check out the tier-based rankings. Kirk Cousins is next from Minnesota. AJ Lundgaard, my nephew, Eric Lundgaard, my brother, they both bleed purple. They're so excited.
Do you like that?
Do you like that? Oh, and I post that on our chat feed on the Russian Roulette text feed all the time. Do you like that? Kirk Cousins, like, they didn't want him. I have no idea why they didn't want him. Like, Alex Smith is older. He's not as good. I mean, he's coming off his career.
Believe it.
They just must have hated him.
They had to.
Like, he, slipped his hand underneath the owner's girlfriend's dress or something, and they caught him. But anyway, he's in Minnesota now, and they love him. He's got better weapons than he's ever had. Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen are coming off of career years, but I think they could definitely both go up. Kyle Rudolph.
Man, that makes me excited about those guys, too.
Kyle Rudolph, Cousins loves throwing to the tight end.
I had Thielen last year as well. He's one of my favorites.
Dalvin Cook back healthy. They've got a great defense, and their player personnel guy is killing right now, and he's getting some great shout outs on Twitter. Like, they're signing everybody. They're locking in everybody right now. He's finding a way to make the salary cap work and, like, locking in all these great players. So their defense is going to be great for a long time, and they have a very young team, and Kirk Cousins is amazing, and he'll run more than you think he will.
Yeah.
We were talking about those.
He's got wheels.
Yeah, so you've watched more Kirk Cousins. You know that he'll rush for 5 or 6 touchdowns this year.
Yep.
And his efficiency is between the 20s.
And I feel like he plays to, like, I know this is such a cliche thing to say, but I think he plays to win. He plays to score. Like, he's not like kind of take the foot off the gas at any time.
No. And somebody we're going to talk about here in a minute, Phillip Rivers, reminds me of the same thing. Yeah. The thing is, I like Kirk Cousins and I don't like Phillip Rivers. I just think he's a dick. But Kurt and Washington were like oil and water, and I think he's going to want to prove that they shouldn't have let him go. I mean, he kept doing the, they didn't sign him. He just kept doing his, whatever, his contract year holdover, right. And they never signed him. So I think he's going to be great. The Vikings play at New England, at Seattle, home versus the Dolphins, then at Detroit. Weeks 13 to 16. So we just talked about Stafford having a great, start to the year, which will get him off started well. Kirk Cousins has some right now great looking matchups in those weeks that you need him. I think Kirk Cousins is going to win some championships.
I hope so.
And maybe a championship,
I would like to see it. I mean,
maybe a real NFL, like the Vince Lombardi trophy. No, I'm serious. Their window is
the Vikings what? They're right there. They could do it.
They're knocking. I mean, they were the They're knocking on the door. Absolutely.
They could do
absolutely knocking on the door. In this tier, you've also got Ben Roethlisberger, who's as healthy as he's been in a long time. They keep adding weapons there. Juju is just so amazing.
So Roethlisberger, were we saying 9?
Yeah, 10.
10. So that's rounding out that 10.
Yeah, and he's, he got better last year. He got better in areas where he's been highly criticized in the past.
And he always threatens to quit, so.
Right, he did. And now he won't quit because they drafted Mason Rudolph. And now he's like, I'm going to keep that shit off the field.
He's getting the testosterone
and they're like,
going.
But Ben, we've drafted that guy because you keep talking about retiring. Like, what do you want us to do? And like, he's a trip, man. Like, they asked him about like, bringing the rookie along and showing him the ropes, and he was like, "Fuck that guy! I'm gonna hand him a playbook."
Yeah, and didn't he say
that's
something
what I'm gonna do? I'm
gonna teach him to take my job.
Yeah,
I think he said that.
So he's got a chip on his shoulder, and when players have chips on their shoulders, that's a good thing for football and production. And he has the 2 best fantasy. I mean, you ever sit back and think about how Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell are both on the same team, and they're the best players in fantasy football?
So insane.
How come Ben Roethlisberger is not the number 1 quarterback?
Exactly.
Because Le'Veon Bell catches a bunch of balls.
Yeah.
He throws too many picks.
He throws picks. He lets himself get sacked because he always hangs tight in the pocket for too long.
And at some point, his leg needs to be surgically sewn back on.
He's just going to have a bionic leg.
He'll keep playing though. But his home road split has always been an issue, and last year he rectified that. So that's the thing that excites me the most about drafting him. If those top guys slip and I can get him in the 10th round, my 10th ranked quarterback Ben, I think he can have a career year too. Ben Roethlisberger, he now isn't a guy that you just play when he's at home. Right. Last year, they stopped talking about it by week 6 because somebody finally raised their hand and said, he's blowing up on the road
he's
now
playing
too.
Pretty good everywhere.
And from week 7 on, he really turned it up. From his week 7 on last year, and I like players that finish the year strong. Next is Matt Ryan, Matty Ice. He's higher than most people have him. See, what happens is they just had this that amazing season 2 years ago when they just blew everybody's doors off until there was 20 minutes left of football in the whole year.
Yeah.
Jesus and then they stopped. Christ. And Dan Barlow, who made the league, is a huge Falcons fan.
Yeah,
he'll love that shout out. They were the best team offensively in football for literally take 16 games times 60 and then add up the playoffs and all that and then just subtract out that last 30 minutes of football. So people overdrafted him last year because he did so amazing.
Yeah.
And they fell back. They lost their offensive coordinator, and that will always hurt a guy. And Shanahan went to the 49ers, so they got Sarkisian. But what people don't, dip in and read between the lines and see the deeper story like I do and we do at Pauly Sleepers is that Sarkisian's offense on the whole was better than Shanahan's was his first year. And Shanahan was there 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So people are criticizing Sarkisian because he wasn't Kyle Shanahan, but they had a record epic scoring year. So anybody was going to be a letdown. Right. It'd be like going on after Jerry Seinfeld back in the day at the comedy club. Right. You're done. But the reality is he actually did better than Shanahan did his first year. And I think they're going to bounce back. They added Calvin Ridley in the draft. So that's another huge weapon for them. So Calvin Ridley's another guy to catch passes with Julio Jones. And Calvin Ridley's the real deal. So I like Matt Ryan for that reason.
Awesome.
How are we doing on time?
We're good. We're hitting at an hour right now.
Okay, good. All right. Rounding out this tier is Carson Wentz. A lot of people have him as high as number 4. He's coming off injury. He had that highly unsustainable touchdown rate that I was talking about. He'll go back to the mean. I like him. I can't believe people have him ranked that high coming back off the injury. And they threatened to start his camp on the PUP. Mm-hmm. It was going out on Twitter. Everybody was talking about it. They ended up not doing it, but they almost started him on the PUP. I'm not drafting somebody that high coming off of injury. And coming off of that kind of
and it's always my I have those irrelevant feelings that I get that I know a lot of people will prove me wrong with statistics, but just what you're saying and just the way I saw him play last year, it's going to be down. It's not going to be that.
Well, and
at least that's the feeling I always get when I see that happen.
And Foles is so good and won them the Super Bowl. Why would you worry? If there's any question, Foles will be starting week 1.
Yeah.
If there's any question at all, why would you? Why would you push it back? Foles is probably the best backup in the league.
Right.
It's a great team. I'm not calling for a bust here. I'm just saying, if you get a guide where he's ranked 4 to 6, use caution. I would not draft him before number 8 or 9 at least, but I have him number 13. Patrick Mahomes is 14. because of all the weapons he has. This is his first year. This is his rookie year.
Right.
You know, he played last year, but I like what they did in Kansas City last year. Alex Smith was this West Coast game manager, dink and dunker, right?
Yeah.
Well, they drafted Patrick Mahomes and talked about his cannon and talked about what they want to do in the future with Patrick Mahomes because he does have a cannon. And Alex Smith said, I can do that shit too. No team's ever asked me to do that. I'm a game manager, but that's like saying like this actor's always done this role and never
because
talked
nobody's
about
given him a chance to do anything different.
He went ham last year. Alex Smith was hitting those guys up deep, and that's what they want to do, and that allows that offense to transition to Patrick Mahomes. Alex Smith did a great favor for the Chiefs, and it's not talked about enough. The Chiefs are, you know, they're ready to move on, and he got no respect at all for allowing them to transition into the offense they want to be, and they went out and got Watkins now, so they have everybody they had last year.
Jesus,
with Sammy Watkins, and Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill were both in the top 10 for deep throw, like how many fantasy points they get from the deep throws.
Right.
So top 10, there's 32 teams. You have 2 guys in the top 10 on deep throws in the league, and you've got a quarterback that loves to chuck it, and you got a team that's going to let him chuck it.
They're just going to keep deep balling.
He's a modern
deep balling all day.
He's a modern day Brett Favre, and people are going to be like cringing, like Packers fans are cringing right now. I am comparing Patrick Mahomes to Brett Favre on his ability,
gunslinging ability,
and on what can happen, and on his gunslinging. So he's going to throw picks too, but I like him this year. Jimmy Garoppolo, the young guy's right after him. He ended up getting 5 games to start last year. The Pats traded him to New England, and he got really, really good in those 5 games. He won all 5, didn't he? Yeah, and the team fell in love with him, and the city fell in love with him, and he's just so gorgeous.
Yeah, my wife's dad is a huge fan of the Niners, and he's talked about all offseason is Jimmy G's just looking really good, man.
Yeah,
he's looking real good.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah,
and he's that guy that, like, you know, they're like, yeah, he's a stud. Look at him. He's that guy that you're like, you can't argue it. You're like, yeah, he's a fucking good looking guy. But he also shows up on Twitter with porn stars and stuff. It's really cool. Did you see that?
I saw that, and
he got highly criticized for that, but he showed up on Twitter, like, and Facebook and Instagram with like
go do what you do,
a 40-year-old like retired porn star.
Do it. Go ahead. Don't care.
Do it, Jimmy. But you know, produce as well.
Only judgment I had was if he was actually paying her to hang out with him, or if he was just like if they met and then like became a thing. I'm okay with that.
Right. I'm sure if he was going to reach out, he wouldn't have reached out to a 40-year-old.
Exactly.
She must do something special that he likes. That was probably way going too far. Was that going too far?
It's good.
I'm not that big into the podcast thing. Did I just cross a line?
And it's good because if we keep seeing him show up with her, it's one of those things like the no boom boom before the game, or it'll make the legs weak.
Right.
If we see him still hanging out with her throughout the season,
right? That's the old
might stay away from him.
That's the old like prize fighter boxer mentality that you stay hungry and don't have sex before the game. Garoppolo has some great weapons around him. He has Kyle Shanahan, the aforementioned, calling the plays, who's very aggressive. The team loves him. The town loves him. I'm just a little worried that Shanahan's offense really doesn't produce a ton of touchdowns. Throwing, they'll end up probably rushing a ton of touchdowns. And he doesn't have a number 1 wide receiver. I would love him so much more. Like, people want to put him in the top 10 too, and I'm like, calm down. I mean, he doesn't have Stephon Diggs or T.Y. Hilton or Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, his top wide receivers are Pierre Garçon and Marquise Goodwin. And they're good, but
Garçon had his best years with Manning, or was it Luck?
He had some great years with Manning, and then also like Washington. Like he had one pretty good year with the Skins.
Right.
We're just gonna talk about some guys and not delve too deep into the notes. You can get to the notes on paulysleepers.com.
Give me somebody that people may not know about.
Tyrod Taylor.
I'm all in on Tyrod Taylor. He's another one I like watching play.
Yeah, and people were afraid to I'm taking that that Raiders of the Lost Ark step over the canyon where you think you're gonna die, but really there's a hidden little ledge there. I'm gonna take that step with Tyrod because he's been a perennial like number 12 fantasy quarterback, always like towards the end of that number 1 quarterback,
right.
Always very streamable. Always willing to get it done on his feet. Very efficient.
Yeah.
He's so underrated for how efficient he is. He won't turn the ball over. And now he has boom, 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 boom weapons that he's never had. He's never had this. He's had LaShawn McCoy, but that's it. They never gave him anybody else in the passing game to work with. And now that he's got weapons, and now that he's got a team that's done the right thing, the Browns have finally done the right thing. Somebody took the Kool-Aid away from them and said, you've got to stop drafting these quarterbacks and putting them right to the wolves. Draft the guy you like, and obviously they liked Baker Mayfield, but draft another guy that runs the same style of offense that you feel good about him playing year one, or at least most of year one, so your guy can develop. And Taylor and Mayfield run the same offense, and he's got so many weapons around him that I think he's going to be a sleeper this year. I'm actually advocating that if you're in 4 leagues like I am, or I think I'm in 5, take one of the leagues and just at the end of the draft, don't take a quarterback. Maybe somebody notices and finally goes, dude, you don't have a quarterback yet, And at the end of the draft, take Tyrod Taylor and Baker Mayfield and drop the mic.
There you go.
Because they're both going to run it a lot. And if Tyrod gets pulled, because their schedule's brutal at the beginning of the year.
Are they?
Like, I think Baker will be starting by week 7 because their schedule's so brutal at the beginning of the year. If he starts 2-4, that's going to be 2 more wins than they've had in 2 years combined. They're 1-31 the last 2 years.
Holy shit!
So the expectations are very low. So I think they're going to let Tyrod do his thing. I think they're going to let him be a 500 team, or strive to be a 500 team at least, and they'll bring Baker on later. And if you've drafted them both, then just have Baker ready to step in there when they're ready to give him the reins, because he's going to run the ball.
And don't forget about Josh Gordon.
Yeah, well,
he's at the Browns, right? Still,
yeah, but he's not at camp. He needs to get his mind right.
Really?
Yeah, I think it has something to do with Hard Knocks.
God damn it!
It's really political. You haven't heard about this?
God, no. Where am I at?
It's really political, man. I tweeted that the new Purple Kush came out, and that's why he's not at camp. But the fact of the matter is that they released a statement saying he needed to get his mind right before, and that's bullshit because they've had all these months. Get your mind right in March. This is training camp.
That guy just can't get
the
out of his own
reality
fucking way.
is that people aren't talking about, because it's not really football related. This is drama shit. But they have Hard Knocks this year, and I think they just want to keep that drama out of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
I think the NFL kind of helped them orchestrate this. So
Man,
Tyrod Taylor's a huge sleeper for me this year. After Garoppolo, I like Jared Goff to round out this tier. Eli Manning. If Barkley and Evan Ingram had just a statistical huge tight end year, and you've got Odell, one of the best in the game, people were ranking Eli in number 20 and still ranking all those guys as number 1s. One of these things isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I would lend it to Eli maybe having a career year as well, because he's got all these weapons around him, and they increase the offensive line as well. I'm not saying go out on a limb and get Eli, but I'm saying if your draft runs away from you, don't let it bother you. I think that you could be pretty happy with an Eli or a Tyrod Taylor, or maybe even Marcus Mariota or something like that to start the draft. There's another tier, and you could check it out online. We're going to go back to draft day advice before we go to tight ends.
Let's go.
And the tight ends will be pretty quick too. So I already talked about it a little bit. Don't use my rankings. Just check them out and see where the outliers are. Don't show up with the outdated magazine. Don't be that guy. Do you still have that person at your... Okay.
No, I don't think anybody uses the magazine.
It might be a dinosaur, but I don't think so. I think St. Elmo guys, I guarantee you, Q or Jeff from St. Elmo, one of those guys, Billy, Mad Dog, one of those guys is going to start off with show up with a magazine. I think it always happens. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, most guys, or most of the people in our league, we're very very casual, but we get real into it during the football season.
Right.
So and there's a lot of shit talking going back and forth, and a lot of them utilize just the ESPN rankings, because the ESPN rankings they have that set up where they have all of the top writers or whatever, and then they kind of average out
the consensus.
Yeah, they average out what somebody would be, but then that's why I love that breakout style, because I like to maybe there's a guy that I find his advice to be better. Right. And I see a guy that I like, and that guy's got that guy at 3, and I'm like, oh, well, I've got that guy
see who
at
else
3,
he likes.
so I'm going to pick that guy.
Yeah. No, that's good. Don't hate players, hate ADPs. The ADP is their average draft position. Allow yourself to draft LaShawn McCoy, even if you're convinced that
there's no gas left in the tank.
Yeah. Because I'm not so convinced that he's done. Him and Frank Gore and like we talked about earlier, Larry Fitzgerald and Tom Berry, I mean, they'll let you know when they're done. I mean, we need to assume they could play football until they don't.
Exactly.
And their new offensive coordinator loves to run the football. They'll run and run and run even if they aren't successful. I think he's going to get a lot of looks, and the community's writing him off.
And what I focused on last
I mean, that
year,
team sucks, yes, but he's going to get such a big market share of what they do that I say don't write him off. He'll probably slip in your draft because he's very unsexy and old,
right.
and the Bills suck. And I'm not really crazy about drafting him either. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just saying, like, if he slips to a point where you're like, man, we're into the next tier now, and like Shady's sitting there and he's been sitting there for a minute, that's when you draft him.
And I've thought about a lot on usage. Like, if I feel like a player is going to get a lot of touches, I know, once again, a lot of my ideas are based on just normal common sense. But like, if somebody's going to get the ball a lot, I want that guy on my team.
Right. The market share, what us, fantasy football geeks say, their target share, their market share.
And you can see that when you're
drafting.
He
always gets a ton of the team's production. I mean, he usually, ends up being like 35 to 40% of the overall production offensively for the team. So even if they suck in a PPR, that could be a not bad thing. If the Cardinals and the Bills really suck, then they have to keep throwing the ball. Pass catching running backs like McCoy and David Johnson are going to keep catching the ball, and a catch is better than a carry in fantasy football if you're doing PPR.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So don't pass on somebody because they did you wrong and it was Russell Wilson. He got hurt, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a contact sport, Justin. Like, sorry, Russell Wilson got hurt that year. He's also
Don't be calling me out. I can bitch all I want about people getting hurt.
It's part of the game, so don't go, oh yeah, like he screwed me that year. He's really good at football.
Yeah, I'm bad at it. You
have to put your personal biases aside.
I gotta get it out of the head.
Yeah, you gotta put your personal biases aside. And err towards the upside always. Like, if you are looking between two players and it's, Isaiah Crowell or, a backup, running back someplace else that you think might get more time, and you don't want that unsexy like Isaiah Crowell. Like, sometimes that player can really help your team. Like, sometimes you have to get that unsexy pick and those guys that can like just kind of hold down the fort for you. But when in doubt, draft the upside guy. That's what I've always done. Explosive players. Like, just think about it. Like, does he just wow you when he touches the ball? Right. That's why I told everybody week 2 last year when Kamara got like 5 touches, I told everybody, man, I liked those 5 touches. I liked what I saw. And if he's good at football, he's going to get more. So go with upside. And like we talked about earlier, what's more likely to happen? Teams that like to pass are going to pass. Teams that like to run are going to run. Guys that are good at football are going to be good at football. Yeah. Try to put all of the past besides you. The first 2 picks need to be solid.
Yeah, you definitely want to put it behind you and not beside you.
I did say that.
No, I'm just kidding.
But no, put it beside you so you can reference it.
There you go.
Your first 2 to 4 picks need to be solid. Don't speculate then. Get the guys that are good at football in those first 2 to 4 picks. Let those be the solid foundation for your team.
That is like, that will win you your league. Mm-hmm. That's like I feel like one of the biggest advice that is, once again, kind of common sense, but it means something.
Right.
It means a lot.
You have to peel back sometimes, and sometimes the most common sense thing is, and especially if you're drafting drunk, and later on I'm going to say, don't. That's when you make bad decisions, so try and save the beers towards the end of your draft and not get completely wasted. Guys like Jordan Howard are great solid picks, but they don't have top 5 potential. So there's guys in his range like Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cook and Jerick McKinnon that could be top 5 fantasy running backs this year. Jordan Howard probably won't. So to me, they have higher upside, and they're all going right around the same pick.
Right.
So we're going to move on to tight ends.
Let's do it. Even me being a noob, I feel like I could name like the top 3, right?
Okay. Well, you haven't looked at it, so go ahead.
So you've got Gronk, obviously.
Absolutely. In a tier of his own.
And then you've got, we already talked about him from the Panthers. Why am I forgetting the name off the top of my head right now?
Well, forget it right now because he's later.
Oh, okay. He's not top 3?
No.
All right. So then, that was gonna be one of my top 3, and now I'm getting thrown
I think
off.
he's 4 though. Okay. So
go ahead though. You let me know.
We've got Gronk, and then Kelsey and Ertz, and then Olsen. And Olsen's actually there's 3 tiers right there. Gronk's in his own tier. You could get him earlier. It's a great year to get Gronk because sometimes he goes in the middle of the second round or late second round, and it's just a little too early for someone that you know is probably going to get hurt. The reason why you get Gronk is because when he's healthy, he wins your position battle that week.
And he could potentially even win the week for you.
And he can win the whole damn week for you, too. And this year, he's going a little later. He's going like early third round, mid third round, late second round in some leagues. So I think he's very draftable this year. And his ADP from year to year is so fluid, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense to me. He's healthy. They're begging for wide receivers. They just worked out Eric Decker today.
Oh, shit.
So, Edelman's out, and Amendola went to Miami. They have Chris Hogan. They have Malcolm Mitchell, who the other day on Twitter, it said that he was on the trade block. And then an hour later, it said that he was going to probably start the season on the PUP. So, like, they
have no idea what's going on.
The Pats just throw shit out there and see what works sometimes. Like, they're just like, hey, does anybody want to trade for this guy? Like, and everybody's like, well, where is he? I don't see him. Oh, he's good. He's fine. Like, he's hurt, and Jordan Matthews is on that team now, and I don't think he's doing well. And Kenny Britt's on that team. And they still have Philip Dorsett from the Colts on that team. And with all those guys I just named off, they still worked out Eric Decker today.
Jesus.
So Tom's going to find his targets, but who do you think he's going to throw to with Julian Edelman suspended and Amendola down in Miami? Chris Hogan?
Yeah, but Hogan's look good. I mean,
no, he's great.
On the field.
The truth is, like, the Patriots haven't had a wide receiver that has had more than 3 100-yard games in a season since like 2012. Mm-hmm. You need to put that into perspective.
That's insane.
Like they do really well, but they're usually around 80 or 90 yards, and some of them have blowups, but like I guess none of them have ever had more than 3 blowups in the last 5 years. Gronk is going to get his work. So you could take him early. The next tier is Kelsey and Ertz. They're pretty much the same player. They're the focal point of their team. All 3 of these players might lead their team in targets this year. That's what you want. They're explosive.
I completely forgot. Like, why? This is, like I said, I need to get back into the football flow of things because I can't believe I forgot about fucking
it sneaks
Kelsey,
up on people.
And I forgot about fucking Ertz. And then, I mean, I saw Ebron even like catching passes in Colts camp. So, like,
I
know he's not probably on there, but I'm just saying.
He's scroll down. Yeah, he's down here.
Yeah, but I think he's going to be good.
Ebron will be a red zone target, and like what I see is maybe it being a season like when Dwayne Allen and Coby Fleener both caught like 8 touchdowns. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Like Coby Fleener had like 55 catches, but Dwayne Allen had like 29.
Yeah,
like literally like one out of, and that's not even an exaggeration. Like 1 out of every 3.5 catches that he caught was a touchdown. That might be a year like that for this year with Doyle and Ebron. Doyle could end up with around 55, 60 catches, and Ebron could end up with like 35, and they both get like 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. So Kelsey and Ertz, they're both focal points of their team. You think about a Mahomes with Kansas City's only got 1 game under his belt. Like who's he gonna look to early and often? There's tons of guys on that team that could stretch the defense too. So when that defense has to back up to get Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill on those streaks because those players are so fast. That opens up the middle of the field for Kelsey. Like he just runs down the buffet line.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah. And Zach Ertz is the same way. My ball, Zach Ertz. That guy is very trusted, and he's a no-brainer. So, they say, oh, don't take a tight end early. Wait on a tight end. Really? Like, you're telling me I should pass on one of these guys and later on be super happy about George Kittle or David Njoku?
Yeah, fuck that.
Get me out of your fucking mind. You must not play fantasy football because, like, the rest of the spots are all fluid. There usually ends up only being 4 or 5 trusted guys. Evan Ingram jumped into the fold last year. So that's that next second tier. Greg Olsen starts the third tier.
That's the Greg Olsen.
Yeah, number 4, which he's high on my rankings than most, but it's because of North Turner. He's going to be a trusted target. Like I said, he can lead this team in targets as well, and he's going to have a great year if he stays healthy. He's going to have a great year. He could have a career year. Go back and look at North Turner and when he was at San Diego, when he was at Washington, when he was at just every place he's been all over. But like the awesome tight ends, like the 12 to 14 touchdown tight end seasons, like follow this guy around.
Yeah, like a
little puppy dog. Like he loves
Norv Antonio Gates, right?
Yeah.
And Antonio Gates, is he still in the league?
No, I think he's just gonna. I think he's just gonna sit
retire?
out camp, and they're gonna pick him back up again because like Hunter Henry is out for the year,
Right.
so they have nobody. Like they literally announced today that they're gonna like stream 3 guys at the position until they figure something out. I just think that that Gates is just sitting back because he knows he's got great value to them because he knows the offense and he doesn't want to play in camp. Did you see him last year? He's like fatter than me. Like Gates is amazing and like he is fantastic, but like last year he would just catch the ball and turn around and fall down.
Oh yeah, I saw it. I saw it a lot.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
And everybody, I just want to give a shout out to all these guys in the chat because they're definitely putting the traffic up. They're just all talking shit to each other, and I love it.
They?
Yeah,
Nice.
You're just gonna have to go back and listen or go back and read it. That's awesome.
I will. Hey, shout out to the guys in the chat room. Then I really can't watch it because I'm looking at the rankings.
You got stuff pulled up.
So right after Olsen is Kyle Rudolph. I have him a little early too because Kirk Cousins loves throwing to the tight end. And he is so solid. Last year he had a great year. His career year was 2 years ago. He had 83 catches for 840 yards and 7 touchdowns. Those are great.
And Kyle Rudolph is like the tatted up guy, right? Like cool tattoo, bro. Like
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and he's so steady. He's like he's like the Ertz and Kelsey of this next tier. Like you can count on him to get targets. You can count on him to carry your team. You can wait on him too. Like I have him number 5, but most rankings are probably going to have him like number 8, which means you could probably wait till round 7 or 8 to get him.
What round do you take tight ends?
It just see that's the kind of question, like I said earlier, that there's not enough information.
Yeah, that's true.
There's not enough information. If it's one of these guys, sorry, I just like totally scolded you. I was like, that's what I was telling you.
No, I'm just asking because I think it's a good question. When
you start getting into these guys later, like when these guys you want to be 6, 7, 8.
Because tight ends, I'm usually taking very like almost at the end.
Yeah, and that's a lot of guys say to do that, but these guys are 6th, 7th, 8th round guys, and then we'll start getting into 9th and 10th round guys, and that's fine. I mean, there's some guys down here that are good. I think Kyle Rudolph could have a very career year, better than that 2016 year. Kirk Cousins, you like that?
Yeah,
he's gonna like that. He likes the tight end position. Jordan Reed gets ton of action when he's healthy, and when he's not out there, Vernon Davis gets it all. And so he's a sleeper for me this year, big time. It's hard to call sleepers anymore because everybody knows who everybody is. But when I say a sleeper, I think he's going to outperform his ADP.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's going to outperform his average draft position. Evan Ingram really did well for me last year. I picked him up in all my leagues. He had one of the best tight end rookie seasons. So, like, if you're pumped up about a rookie right now, just know that it's not going to happen because, like, rookie tight ends don't produce their first year, but he sure did. But it was because Odell got hurt, and so did Sterling Shepard, and they just lost all their wide receivers.
Yeah, they had, like, nothing.
But also, he is a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about tight end. I mean, like, truthfully, like, Evan Ingram is a wide receiver that just has tight end next to his name, and that team is going to defenses are going to have trouble covering that team. He's got amazing route running skills. Odell stretching the field. Barkley's bringing the linebackers up. He's going to be running around the middle of the field going to the buffet too, man. All these guys are great picks. I think there might be a resurgence of tight ends. There's a ton of tight ends that are in great situations right now, and tight end has sucked the last few years. Like, there's a couple good ones.
I mean, it's been a drought.
Yeah, there's been a couple good ones.
We talked about this last year.
Yeah, exactly. I think the drought is over, man, because this next guy, Jimmy Graham, went to Aaron Rodgers and the pack. Don't listen to everybody saying that Aaron Rodgers doesn't target the tight end position. You'll hear that over and over and over again if you listen to fantasy football stuff. I'm against I'm swimming upriver on this.
Yeah, you're going against the grain.
Because
go against it.
He's never had a tight end that's had this soft of hands. I mean, Jimmy Graham's hands are like a Dove commercial.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers throws to who's open.
Exactly.
And then sometimes throws to who's not open, but they still catch the ball.
Exactly. So who's gone that has always been there for him? Jordy Nelson. So Devontae Adams is going to get plenty of work, and they've drafted like 3 rookie wide receivers. So somebody's going to come out of nowhere too and be amazing and be.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm going to get that guy.
The next James Jones. Well, later on, I'm going to hopefully try and tell you who that guy is. But Jimmy Graham is going to catch up. I mean, in a PPR, he's not going to get you a ton of catches. He'll probably get 50 catches. But he'll probably get 750 yards and 8 touchdowns, I say, is his floor. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers throws 35 touchdowns and you break down where they're going to go, there's literally no scenario where Jimmy Graham doesn't get 8 of them in any situation unless he gets hurt. So I think he's a great pick, and I think people that are sleeping on him and saying that that's a bad situation are absolutely out of their mind. Jimmy Graham just went to the team that has the best fantasy football quarterback of all time. So draft that guy.
Yep.
That's getting those targets. To round out this tier is Delanie Walker. He's one of those guys that you can wait for, but man, Delanie Walker, you just throw him in there, he will get work.
He's also fun to watch as well.
He torched the Colts last year. I mean, surprise, surprise. But I mean, on one play, like literally there was 4 guys on him, and Mariota doesn't care.
Right.
That's the guy you want. Like Mariota doesn't care if he's covered or what's going on. He's going to throw.
Mariota's a slinger as well.
He is, and he targets the tight end position about 20% of the time. Pretty consistently. Yeah.
I got you on the word.
You got me. Delanie Walker, somebody you can wait on, and if you whiff on all the tight ends and don't get all the exciting ones I just talked about, then just go up there and write Delanie Walker's name down. It's not sexy, but he will get you through those rough times. Right. He is a focal point of that.
And he's kind of like, I mean, once again, when we talk about the sit it and forget it, unless he's hurt, you can kind of like set him.
Yeah, you don't have to look at his matchups or anything. You don't need to be like, oh, well, that team's good against the tight end. Fuck that, man. He's going to be fine.
Exactly.
We go into the next tier now, and there's the players I'm really excited about right here, and everybody's going to laugh. It's Jordan Reed, who's never played a full season of fantasy football.
Can he stay healthy?
That's probably not.
That's the only question.
I joke about his 3 broken feet all the time, or like last year I was like, well, he got hurt and then he hurt his hurt, so that kind of sucked when his hurt got hurt. But I mean, the reality is he's a great player and he's not hurt right now.
Right.
So we need to monitor this. Out goes Cousins and in comes Alex Smith. So Alex Smith likes targeting the tight end position too. He did that pretty good with Travis Kelce, right?
Right.
So you've got Jordan Reed, who is a special player. He had a surgery on that foot that's been fucking with him for like 16 years. And they're saying that might have fixed it. We'll know soon, because if he's hurt like he always is, you'll see it that he won't practice, and then he might play, and then he plays.
That's the most frustrating thing as a fantasy owner in your fucking life.
Yeah, the footballers call it Rule 84 because he's number 84, and the Rule 84 is if he's healthy and there's not an I next to his name, you start him,
right? Because
he's that good. But there's another guy behind him that Alex Smith really liked throwing to when he was in San Fran, named Vernon Davis, who had his best year with Alex Smith throwing him the ball. So why not draft Jordan Reed? And then if Jordan Reed gets hurt, go out there and pick up Vernon Davis, because that's what I did last year. And if Reed's not out there, they're going to throw it to Vernon Davis. He's a special player too. Like, he was roasting cornerbacks last year.
I remember.
Still.
Yeah.
Like, the Titans didn't know what to do. Like, the guys, they all had their hands up. They were like, Jesus, would somebody get this guy? They couldn't do it. So he'll go in there and he'll just fuck around and get you 4, 5, 6,
right?
For 60 and a touchdown. Yep. And that's great. And it's free. Like, this is somebody you can go really late. In this tier, we also have Jack Doyle. Eric Ebron going there does worry me a little bit, but Luck loves throwing to Doyle, man. Jack Baby Hands Doyle.
Yep. They got a really good connection too.
They really do, and I like him. He'll probably get 65 catches, 650 yards, 6 touchdowns, bunch of 6s.
Oh, Doyle rules.
Yeah. So I like him in that tier too. Trey Burton, who Chicago got, and a lot of hype about Chicago because they got Matt Nagy is their new coordinator that they got from Kansas City, and he was great there. And they picked up Allen Robinson, who was with the Jags, and they picked up Taylor Gabriel from Atlanta, and they picked up Trey Burton, and they drafted Anthony Miller. They're giving Trubisky these weapons.
It seems like they got a lot of guys that had like some like real strong like games and like real strong stretches, but not like full season long.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And Allen Robinson is the exception, but really he just had one good year.
Yeah.
And I'll explain later how that was an outlier. I don't believe in Chicago, and I don't believe in Nagy resurrecting everything, and I don't believe that Trubisky's going to be amazing just because you give him weapons.
I don't think I ever watched Trubisky play.
Well, he was bad, but like John Fox was their offensive coordinator last year, and he's like fossil fuel.
Yeah.
So like you shouldn't take that against him, but I was surprised when Chicago moved up 1 pick in the draft 2 years ago to draft him. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. I think he'll do great.
He's not that franchise guy.
I think he'll be great because there's weapons, but I don't think he's going to be somebody that's going to knock everybody's socks off.
Right.
And Trey Burton, they threw a bunch of money at him because when Zach Ertz got hurt, he did well. Well, that system does well, and that's a well-oiled machine. So just because Trey Burton stepped into that role and succeeded, it's because that's a system. Philly has a system, like New England has a system. That's why you don't get surprised when someone gets hurt and someone comes in and does well, because they're system players. So to throw him a bunch of money at a new system and a new team, I mean, that's just asinine. That's teams, they're doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
Honey Boo Boo, Trey Boo Boo is what the fantasy footballers call him. They call him Trey Boo Boo. I don't believe it. I've got him lower than most. In this tier, you've got George Kittle, and he's going to be...
he's the one you said not to be excited about.
Jimmy Garoppolo's... Oh, George Kittle?
I thought so.
I've been saying that. I mean, I'm going to have to review that over this month because, like, he ran a 4.5, and like, he's 6'7", and, like, I think I just have this image, like, you get an image of something, you've never even seen it. Like, I've never even seen this guy.
Yeah.
But I have this image of just this kind of plodding white guy and, like, gets some good looks, and he's athletic. Like, this guy's an athletic freak.
Then he's running a 4.5.
This guy's an athletic freak. The thing that bothered me is in Jimmy G's games, we have 6-game sample size, which isn't big, but it's not exciting. He went 1 catch for 14 yards, 2 catches for 20 yards, 2 catches for 10 yards, 4 catches for 52 yards, 3 for 42 and 1, and 4 for 100. So
the 4 for 100 was big.
And so was the 3 for 42 and 1, but like the other 4 games really aren't startable.
Yeah.
I guess one of those is middle of the pack, but he seems boomer bust to me.
Right.
And like, Walker, those other guys are going to be a little bit more, I think, sustainable and week by week good picks. David Njoku actually is a sleeper for me, and that's because Tyrod Taylor loves throwing to the tight end, and he will dink and dunk and get rid of the ball and not turn it over, not throw it away. I think Njoku will benefit from that, although he had like 2 crucial drops in practice today.
Oh, great.
Come on, catch the ball. But he's a sleeper for me. And then
so he's got a caveat.
Yeah, and then Tyler Eifert showed up off the PUP list today. Like, he's ready for football. He's another guy like Jordan Reed that's hurt all the time, but is amazing at football when he's in there. And people forget that Eifert in 2015 was in the Offensive Player of the Year discussion towards the end of the year. He had 13 touchdowns through 13 games.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt. So he's big. He's good at football. AJ Green takes some looks away from him. I think Joe Mixon's going to improve this year. I still think this team is a 500 at best team. But for fantasy football, if Eifert is healthy, what I say in my draft guide on Pauly Sleepers is Jordan Reed, Tyler Eifert, monitor their health. If they're healthy, fucking draft them.
Yeah.
These guys are good at football.
Yep.
And that's it for tight ends.
Tight ends, man.
There's much more on the website.
It's going to be a lot more action from at least in our opinion, for this year.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Because last few years it's fucking sucked.
Yeah. I think it's going to be good. Just get one of those top 6 or 7 guys. I think could be good. So before we go to wide receivers, we're going to just continue with some of the draft day advice. Can you still hear me well?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I won't be right all the time. No one is. These are highly educated, researched guesses. And what I'm going to say is, use your gut. Put some time into this, even if it is the work league or family league that, people aren't really kind of caring about. If you can get one other person excited and you get excited, like everybody else is going to jump into this and they'll start being like, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I saw so-and-so return to practice this week. And all of a sudden you're like, damn, man, it'll be more fun. So don't drunk draft. So I put the hashtag, I'm sure you've seen it, hashtag draft responsibly.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get it to trend. It's not trending yet.
We're going to start plugging that. I'm plugging that.
I'm not, please help me out with that. But I'm not, I'm not saying bring your O'Douls and Red Bull and water only. I'm going to drink at all my drafts. But I'm going to take it easy and be, so I can have a clear head, because I've gotten wasted and picked some horrible teams.
Really?
Especially in the St. Elmo League, like you draft like after they get off work before before Labor Day, the night before Labor Day, because they're closed the next day, and they start at like 2 a.m. And I'm just, but you've
been hanging out a little bit.
But the year that I took a big nap before I went and didn't get that wasted, I went to the finals and almost won the thing. So, don't drunk draft. Have fun, but try and pay attention to what you're doing. Know your opponent. I know Ross likes Alex Collins. And we were talking earlier, Dan Barlow, he got in our league. He likes the Falcons. Now, Dan's smart, though. He won't go, reaching for Julio Jones and Matt Ryan and those guys. If they go past him, he can keep the two separate. This is like business and pleasure when you have a team that you like.
So how do you feel about like knowing your opponent and intentionally taking somebody they like? Is that gamesmanship, or is that?
It can be a lot of fun, but it's not something I employ very much. Or is that being a dick? If I like the guy, then I'm going to like the guy and realize that I'm going to maybe have to take him a little sooner than normal because of this other coach that likes him. Otherwise, I'm not drafting somebody's handcuff just to go ha, or draft somebody that they like because they like USC players and they want Juju so bad, and then I draft Juju like really early just because, like, don't do that.
Not gonna lie, later on in the draft, man, I'm big on picking up the guys that are the handcuffs.
You like the handcuff thing?
Just so that if somebody needs them, then I have a bargaining chip.
That's, and that can, in deeper leagues where there's not many players on waiver wires, that can be successful. You need to look at that. Like, if you've been in the league long enough.
And I'm big on getting my own, too.
Yeah. Oh, I say don't get handcuffs.
Really?
There's a couple that I say you pretty much have to get, and there's a couple that I advocate, but for the most case, I don't say draft your handcuff at all.
Because,
sometimes I think you have to. Most of the time, I do not.
We've seen Bell not start for a couple, years for 4 games or whatever.
Right. But you don't have to go draft James Conner. No one's going to draft him.
Both those years, I got, I think I got Williams.
Well, see, that year, that was a good thing to do because Williams, actually statistically had better fantasy production than Bell did.
And then the guy that had Bell was struggling in those first 4 games. So traded me, I think, the third game, traded me somebody for Williams, or the second game after the second game, traded me somebody for Williams that improved my team greatly. He already had Bell, so he kind of was almost I'm trying to think of the word for it. He was kind of improving his team for a short amount of time, but the gain that I think he got out of it was a significant. It's almost like buying a used car with a really high interest rate or something like that, because it's not really going to pay off for him in the long run, and it paid off for me right away.
Right. Well, if that strategy's worked for you before, then do it.
Yeah.
Because that worked out really good. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you.
It's not going to work out every time.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to do it, but if you want to do that.
But you're wasting a spot, too, on somebody that may not start.
Also, some of these backups and the handcuffs right now are some of these rookies that we're going to talk about in a minute. So some of these guys you want and have standalone value. So to me, it's not drafting their handcuff. It's drafting a guy that I think he's better.
Than the starter.
If Deontay Foreman wasn't probably going to start the year on the pup, I would have drafted him knowing that Lamar Miller's not going to make it.
Right.
I like him better. Now, he's going to start this year on the pup, so...
I've always liked Lamar Miller, though.
But you know what? I could pull a Jeff and, draft Deontay Foreman at the end of the draft and just have him for week 7 when he gets activated off the pup and then Lamar Miller's done.
There you go.
That's kind of more how I use that type of strategy. And we talked about it earlier, it's hard to get players in your hometown if you are in Minnesota and you're drafting, you might have to get a guy and then he doesn't have value anymore.
Right.
So,
same with the Colts players here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, they're going to go sooner. I mean, I think with all the uncertainty, I think this year they might not go crazy early, but they probably still will. I mean, look, I have Andrew Luck ranked number 4 and no one else. I mean, that's reflective of the town that we're in and kind of the mentality that I have. Teams target running backs in the passing game more now.
Yeah.
So last year, running backs scored more. Quarterbacks scored a little less. But running backs scored more, and it was more from the passing game. And I'm advocating getting these players that are on teams that pass the ball a lot. The New Orleans Saints, the Patriots, the San Francisco 49ers, the Arizona Cardinals, they throw to their running backs a lot. And I like PPR running backs. And all my rankings are based on PPR. So I want to lean towards those players in every situation because they throw to the running back a lot. It seems like what you said earlier, it's that's just, that just seems like common sense. But I mean, sometimes you have to think about it. You have to think about okay, well, is Jay Ajayi going to catch a bunch of balls? No, because they passed the ball 80 times to running backs last year, and none of them got more than 18.
Yeah,
it was crazy. They all got some. You get a catch, you get a catch. It was Sproles, Clement, Ajayi, all these guys, and none of them were PPR relevant. So I'm not excited about any of those guys. I want the focal point of the PPR game, like Alvin Kamara, Sony Michel,
Jarek
McKinnon. We'll talk about him here in a minute. So we're going to move on to, if you want to talk about Sony Michel, we can go to running backs first.
That's completely fine with
It's
me.
your show.
Whatever you want to do, man. This is your ride, and I'm just helping drive it a little bit.
It's your show, man. We'll talk about him sooner if you want to do running backs. It's kind of like the other tiers. You don't want to get crazy in these first couple picks. The consensus of the whole community is going to be about the same. The big argument right now is it Le'Veon Bell or is it Todd Gurley? And Todd Gurley did so great last year, and he caught so many balls, and they're really focusing around him. I mean, he had a hell of a rebound year. Sean McVay revitalized that team. I mean, think about how smelly they were.
Oh, yeah.
Think about how bad Jeff Fisher is at coaching
football. People started rooting for him again.
Think about how bad Jeff Fisher is at coaching football. I mean, Nick Foles is good at football, and so is Jared Goff.
Yeah.
And so is, McVay went in there and really, really catapulted that team into fantasy relevance. And Todd Gurley's going to get a ton of looks, but so's Le'Veon Bell. The thing I like about Bell is he gets everything.
Yeah.
He gets 90% of the
offense runs through him.
Absolutely, and that's the same for Gurley. They both run through them, so you can really pick either one. I'm actually, since we are starting to go a little long, we don't need to break down these two players. They're both fantastic.
Right.
They're 1A and 1B, and take whichever one and go to my website and you can read what I've said about them. People have asked a lot about Bell and the contract. The one thing I want to discuss is, and you saw me tweet this the other day, there was a bit of a rumor that he could miss up to 8 games. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. They are going to squeeze the last bit of goodness out of him. He's going to be playing someplace else next year. He's going to want to show his relevance and be used. He's going to need to play to show that. So the team's going to want to use the rest of him he can. And this is your contract year player, argument that we talk about all the time. Yeah. In this case, it's true. And he's not going to hold out.
He's got to ball out.
Holding out's going to hurt him. He was just offered $70 million. So if he turned that down, that means he wants a cool 100.
He's got to
and to get 100,
play his ass off.
He's going to need 400 touches. And he's going to get 400 touches. And Gurley has had a good year and then a bad year and then a good year. And I hope we're not doing that kind of,
God,
back and
that
forth.
Would be so frustrating.
Probably not, because McVay really has their shit together and their defense got great.
Yeah.
But the thing about Gurley is he caught 7 of his touchdowns were catches, and they were long screens that's unsustainable too. He's not going to have 7 25-yard screens for touchdowns this year.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure it was somewhere around that.
Yeah.
That made him huge, but that's unsustainable. The next year that thing doesn't happen. So he had 19 touchdowns last year, and Gurley had the best fantasy streak that we've seen from any player at any position over a 4-game stretch ever.
He's
from 13
he's
to
who
16
won me my league last year.
Yeah,
him and Antonio Brown.
He won everybody their league. Now Jackson had him in our league at Dreyer Reinbold, and I went to the finals with him, and he beat me. He had Gurley, and John Prather didn't even make the playoffs with Todd Gurley in the Russian roulette.
That's crazy.
Maybe later on he can, in the season, call in and defend himself on how he can't put a good product. How come you can't put a good product on the field with the best player in football?
Yeah, that's insane.
Sorry, John. So David Johnson goes into the second tier. Gurley and Bell are 1A, 1B, and that's the first tier. The second tier takes you to David Johnson. He has been hurt in his last 2 games. So the last 2 times he's played football, he's been hurt for the season.
David Johnson.
Yeah. At the end of 16,
I got
he went
a buddy
down.
That has
but that was a much more
twice.
serious injury in 16 that took him down. In 17, he had a wrist injury that kept him out for the whole year. So he didn't hurt anything crucial. It was just a wrist. He's ready to go. That team is going to struggle. They're going to keep throwing him the ball, which is where he lies. Let's think about this for a minute. 2 years ago when he had that amazing season, he was the number 1 fantasy football running back. He would have been the number 30 ranked wide receiver that year if you just look at his wide receiver stats.
Yeah.
All right. So David Johnson's going to catch the ball, and that's going to be his relevance. And Sam Bradford's in town now. He's very efficient. He likes to dink and dunk. So enter David Johnson catching dump off passes for Sam Bradford because he's efficient. He doesn't throw the ball away. He doesn't throw it into tight coverage. And as soon as he gets hurt, when Sam Bradford gets hurt,
because he will,
the rookie Josh Allen will come in there and he'll do the same thing. It might be Josh Rosen. I don't know. There's 2 Joshes.
Don't know. Couldn't tell you. I'm terrible. I'm telling you.
It's actually Josh Rosen. It's actually Josh Rosen.
You guys are the reason that you're here.
It's actually Josh Rosen, and if he plays...
Or you guys are the reason that there's any kind of fantasy knowledge here.
Right. If Josh Rosen plays, who's he going to throw it to? He's going to dink it off to Larry Fitzgerald and David Johnson. So, he's going to have a great year. The next one you won't be surprised with, but I'm higher than most, is Alvin Kamara.
Yep.
So this is a special generational player that... Alvin Kamara, I love you.
He's just a stud.
AK-41, sorry. Yeah. They call him AK-41. His number is 41, Alvin Kamara. I love that nickname. And he had a NFL record year with 7.7 yards per touch. NFL record. No one ever. So, I guess the argument against that is, well, that's not sustainable, Paul. You talk about sustainability. He just set the record for average yards per touch. Well, my comeback is he's going to get more touches, and that's stemming from Ingram messed up. Ingram screwed up. He's on a contract year. He screwed up. He's suspended. I wouldn't be surprised if they just traded Ingram. Sean Payton hates him. After the suspension and after, when you get close to the trade deadline, somebody gets hurt, I think they might trade him. I think this is Alvin Kamara's team, and he'll at least have the opportunity to be the bell cow back those first 4 weeks. Don't believe them saying they're not going to increase his touches. Really?
Yeah.
They're not going to give him more than 14 touches, and Mark Ingram's out for 4 weeks.
Right.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
So,
you're lying.
You're lying.
Quit lying to me.
Because of what he could do with the ball. And if you haven't, I think I put it on my website here. If you haven't seen his highlight reel from last year, just stop everything you're doing and watch
Just go look it up.
It's just goodness. He's got balance. You can't knock him off that balance. He spins and does pirouettes. He jumps over people just completely, not guys that are hunched over.
Right.
Usually when you see someone jump over somebody, it's because they're hunched over, and it's still amazing because he just jumped 5 feet.
Yeah.
And a guy that's 1 foot in front of him. But I saw Kamara jump over a guy standing straight up twice this year. So he's my number 4, and that team throws it to the running back. This isn't rocket science, man. It's PPR is what I do. In PPR, you want these guys that are going to catch balls. Melvin Gordon's number 5. I got him high. He's also going to catch balls. He went from 42 catches his rookie year to 31 catches his rookie year to 42 catches his second year to 58 catches last year, and they want to get him more involved. So lock him in for 65 catches. And in PPR, the guys that finish number 1 on the year, they always have 65 or more catches. So you will not have the number 1 fantasy running back unless you have somebody that can do that, and he can do that. And that team, they lost 2 guys from their secondary this week. They lost Hunter Henry. They're going to have to keep they're a pedal on the metal team. Yeah. I watched them last year. They don't let up on defense. They attack. They don't let up on offense. They attack. And he gets tons of red zone looks. And Austin Eckler, Dan's what about Austin Eckler? Dan had Melvin Gordon last year, and Dan wants to complain when he looks up and Austin Eckler is touching the ball. Unless you have Le'Veon Bell, you're going to look up and someone else has the ball.
Yeah, you're going to see somebody else.
Le'Veon Bell had talked earlier, really the only 2 guys that don't give up the damn rock. The next guy will give it up a little bit, but he'll get a ton of work. Leonard Fournette. Yeah. I talked about it earlier. They got Norwell, that lineman from the Panthers, and he's really, really good. They've got an amazing team. If they had a quarterback that was any of those other quarterbacks we mentioned earlier, I didn't mention Blake Bortles on my fantasy.
Not once. The first time we've heard a Bortles reference.
God, if they had Alex Smith even, they would win the Super Bowl because their defense is amazing. This last year, they drafted guys in the NFL draft that would be other team starters as rookies that are just depth.
Yeah.
And they have a ton of wide receivers that they're just going to throw them all out there and see what works because they have Dante Moncrief and Keelan Cole and D.D. Westbrook, and they also drafted DJ Chark. Oh, that's what DJ Moore went to the Panthers. I said that earlier. DJ Moore went to the Panthers. DJ Chark went to the Jags.
Jeez.
You're getting tired.
No, the defense. The defense
they are amazing.
is just watching.
No, that was just you don't know what to say about how good they are, right?
Well, it's scaring me thinking about it because they play the Colts, right?
Right.
Twice a year, don't they?
Right, and usually the Colts are really bad at stopping the run. God. So Leonard Fournette, the thing is,
that was what that sigh was.
Yeah, that was just like the sigh of being a Colts fan and knowing that you're going to get run over by them. That is happening. Like Zeke, he could get more involved in the passing game, and we would like that a lot more. The thing I don't like is he does need 300 carries to be able to get where you want him to get. He needs that volume. He's not going to catch a bunch of passes and do a bunch of wow plays. His feet worry me too. His feet were always an issue in college, and last year they were obviously holding him out due to a minor foot injury so he would be more available for their playoffs, and their playoffs aren't your playoffs. So towards the end of the year, he didn't play for like 2 or 3 weeks. And if his feet could be healthy and he plays a whole season, he's gonna smash it.
People that were upset about that.
Yeah, well, sometimes you gotta get those guys just regardless and just be aware.
Yeah,
be aware.
Ready that it's gonna.
Be aware. Leonard Fournette, owner, his foot has been an issue for a long time. He's like, Jordan Reed, always with the feet. You know, and there's nothing we could do about that. The update here, though, that we really like is that they have a pretty sweet playoff schedule. So they're not going to hold out they're not going to hold them out those weeks. Usually when they make those moves, they'll get somebody through that wall of 9, 10, week 9, week 10, and week 11. I think that's when they did it last year. The next guy is Zeke. He wants to eat. He wants to go to the buffet. My worry is that team just seems like a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it seems like things are going crazy. That's not even related to football.
I think I tweeted that, and they were like, "No, it's a bag of shit, on fire inside a dumpster on fire." And I was like, "No, it's a bag of shit on fire inside a dumpster on fire, and the fire truck that showed up to put out all the fires is also on fire." They don't have anybody to throw to. It's not the offensive line from a couple years ago that everybody still thinks that their offensive line is the best. It's very good, but it's not the best anymore. I'd say it's in the top 3 now. It's not the best. They don't have, they don't have their pass catchers anymore. They don't have Jason Witten, and they don't have. There's a certain guy that's still looking for a job.
Apparently, Antonio Brown is recruiting him to be on the Steelers.
I heard the Browns were too because of the Josh Gordon situation. I heard Jarvis Landry was like, "Hey, come on,"
or just go play for the Colts.
There's been a lot of Colts fans that have said that. I tweeted out somebody saw him at the mall. I never got a confirmation on that, but supposedly Des Bryant was at Circle Center Mall, and I tweeted it out. I was like, I did not confirm this, but if he's in town, I'm not really dying for him to come on the team. No. He's a head case. We already have one. T.Y. Hilton is a very underrated diva. Yeah. If you watch him, he's a diva.
Yeah, sure.
He taught Dante Moncrief how to be a diva too, and I'm glad Dante's out of town. I can only take one on my team. I already have T.Y. and I love T.Y.
Yeah,
and I want to keep loving him. I don't love the fact that he's a diva, and I can't have another one. But Zeke, I think they're going to be bad. I think not having Dez and Witten are going to bring teams up to the line of scrimmage. You've heard the term facing 8-man boxes. That's when a team doesn't respect your passing game, so they load up the box and they kill you. He's going to get a ton of volume. He's like LaShawn McCoy. Everything's going to revolve around him, but. Traquan Smith is their offensive lineman that went down last year, and when he went down, Zeke's production went way down, and he's been showing up in and out of camp a little hurt, and I'm like, oh shit, that's the guy that Zeke didn't do too well when he got hurt. He's like that, that big guy in the line that everybody stands behind, like R. Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
So if that guy continues to be hurt, they don't have any pass catchers to speak of. I think Zeke could have a bad year. I still got to put him number 7.
Yep.
But I'll tell you right now, there's people that have him in the top 3. I've got him way lower than most because I don't like the team. Get guys on teams that score. I don't think they're going to score that much. Kareem Hunt is next. He had a great year. He started out great and he finished great. The middle was really bad. I think Andy Reid's a smart coach that knows that there is such a thing as a rookie wall,
right?
And they held his guy back a little bit.
Yep.
They kept saying, "Well, geez, your record's better when you rush for 100 yards a game, and now you're not using your rookie and everything." And I'm like, "Listen, idiots! Andy Reid's." Smart enough to know that you got to do that Leonard Fournette move, even if he doesn't have a hurt foot. Somebody's hurt. Something's hurt by week 9.
Yeah,
you're
not 100%.
You're hurt. You're hurt by week 9, especially if you're taking that kind of pounding. So they backed off of him, and at the end of the year, when you needed him, and Kareem Hunt in your fantasy playoffs, at the end of the year, he was fine. He did great. People were saying, "Oh well, Spencer Ware is back." He tore all of his ACLs. Every CL, ACL, PCL, MCL.
All the CLs.
No,
he had no ligaments left.
It's the truth. He really did.
Bone on bone.
He really did. And they showed him doing a cone drill and track practice, and they were like, "Here we go, Spencer Ware." Kareem Hunt's way better at football than Spencer Ware is. I'm not worried about him being in there. The only thing I'm worried about is what I saw last year is this team is built to play from the lead a little bit more than most teams, and Kareem Hunt really benefited from that. And if Patrick Mahomes sputters a little bit and gunslings and does turn the ball over, that could change things. But still, like, he caught for 53 balls last year. So like I said earlier, you want to get somebody that, like one of these studs, you want to get somebody that you know can catch 65 plus balls. Well, Kareem Hunt caught 53 balls his rookie year, and that was when he didn't get used a bunch for like 6 or 7 games stretched in the middle of the year. So he's ready to go. He'll probably catch that many balls. Somebody I haven't brought up yet that people are probably like, geez, Paul, like, are you good at this? Because most people are talking about a one Saquon Barkley, and you're not. Man, you know, he's great. I'm not gonna say he's gonna have a bad year. He broke the combine. He really did break the combine. Like in everything, like the vertical, the bench press. He had the best 40 other than Nyheim Hines, who the Colts got. And he has a great skill set, but, you know, if there is a part of his game that lacks, it's running in between the tackles. And, you know, the Giants, sometimes I just don't trust them enough. Like, I know he went to a quote-unquote great spot, but I'm just thinking, like, if there's somebody that could fuck this up, it would be the Giants.
Right. And that's, I'm not a huge fan of
You know,
Giants.
when you were talking about that earlier, you were like, oh, there's all these stats and there's all these things, but sometimes there's just your
that gut feeling.
And my gut is not that he's going to be bad, but that the Giants are probably one of like a handful of teams that I would say they would be my front runners for like could fuck this up.
Right.
And otherwise, he's probably going to be great. In dynasty leagues, like, you definitely want to get this guy because he's going to be an amazing player. I'm not saying he's bad.
Not going anywhere.
I already said he broke the combine.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be a great player. I'm just not going to take him against these players that have done it for us before. Zeke, and I mean, even Zeke, who I think is going to have a bad year. I'm not taking.
You're not going to take Barkley over Zeke.
No. Like, I'm calling for Zeke to have a bad year, but I'm not calling for no way.
Right.
So, Barkley is my number 9 and finishes out that tier. So Bell and Gurley in the tier 1, and Johnson, David Johnson, Kamara, Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, Saquon Barkley in the next tier. And then tier 3, these are the guys you can wait on. You didn't get any of your guys. Hopefully you got one of those guys.
Yeah.
Good God. I hope to God you're not doing 0 running back. There's 0 running back theory going around. I think it was good for 1 year because in 2015 they just broke the meter on throwing the ball, and the wide receivers did great. And there was, you know, Allen Robinson and Odell Beckham and you know, DeAndre Hopkins, and all these guys were just going off. And it was an outlier, man. It was an outlier. The truth of it, the matter is, you know, fantasy football is still a running backs game. So these guys, you can wait. Go get somebody else. You could come back and get one of these guys is all going to be about the same. I think that Devontae Freeman, Jerick McKinnon, Dalvin Cook, Jordan Howard, Joe Mixon, LaShawn McCoy, all these guys are McKinnon, in the same tier. I am too.
People are like all in on him.
No, I am too. I've got him number 11.
Yeah.
And
okay. So there you go.
Yeah,
okay.
I've seen him.
Just
like,
the tiers. The tiers are what are throwing me off.
Yeah.
I think.
So when you look at the website, you'll see it. Like basically, like a bunch of these guys that I just listed in this tier, I think have about the same amount of value. Yeah. A few of them I think have top 5 upside, like they could finish and be the surprise Alvin Kamara or Kareem Hunt next year, because those guys were both in the top 5. Jerick McKinnon, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon. Those guys could all do that. I don't think LaShawn McCoy or Jordan Howard or Devontae Freeman or Christian McCaffrey are going to do it.
Right.
They're all in the same tier. The one guys are very safe picks, especially Devontae Freeman. That's why he's my number 10, because he lives in that 8 to 13 fantasy running back. It's not sexy, but it's a set it and forget it type of a guy, and he'll catch 45, 50 balls, and that team is explosive. So that's why Freeman leads that pack, because of his consistency. But McKinnon's got extreme upside because of his situation with Kyle Shanahan, because of how much he likes targeting the running back position. I mean, a couple years ago, they targeted Devontae Freeman like 100 times in the passing game, and he caught 80 balls. So Jerick McKinnon.
Where did Freeman finish in the top 5 of that year? With like the
absolutely,
you were talking about like your number 1 guys that finish, and then
he absolutely did. And as a matter of fact, Kyle Shanahan has produced a number 3, number 6, and number 8 PPR fantasy running back the last 3 years.
Hey, so take that little nugget of fact and use it, ladies and gentlemen.
So I mean, Jerick McKinnon is a bit of a risk because he hasn't done it before, but sometimes, I listen to Big Dog's Gotta Eat. I listen to Nick Erlano. I listen to Evan Silva, the fantasy footballers. And a lot of times they got to say, if you have a good situation, look back to college and look at their best year. I really enjoyed looking at his college situation. He was drafted by Georgia Southern U to be a quarterback, and he ran the option at Georgia Southern U. If you're worried about him handling a big workload, don't be. He carried the ball 269 times his junior year.
Jeez.
He only had 10 catches in college total because he was a quarterback. Mm-hmm. But now he's had 43 and 51 catches the last 2 years for the Vikings as just a satellite change of pace, half 50-50 split guy. He's not a 50-50 split guy anymore. There's not that many bell cows anymore, but in fantasy, when you can get a guy that gets 60% or more of that position for his team, especially an explosive Kyle Shanahan offense, he's got a ton of opportunity in camp. The linebackers can't cover him, and they have a very good linebacker core. So are you worried about Matt Beretta stealing touches from Jerick McKinnon?
No.
Okay.
Never heard that name before in my life.
Yeah, so that's his number 2. And like Kyle Shanahan, okay, what has he done? What has he done for fantasy football and some of these running backs? We know Devontae Freeman and some of these guys, but like he was the offensive coordinator for the Texans when Steve Slayton had 1,600 all-purpose yards. Do you know who Steve Slayton is?
I definitely know who that is.
Well, yeah, because he's in our division and he torched us. He's not that good at football. I liked
watching him in college as well.
He's not that good at football. He was just in a great Kyle Shanahan system. What about Roy Halou? For the Redskins.
Once again, heard of him, but that's probably because of the 1 year that he had a really good year.
One great year. We had like 1,200 yards. So now you've got a guy. I don't think those guys are that good at football. Jerick McKinnon is athletic. If you look into his pedigree, there are a ton of truthers out there. He is very, very, very athletic. He's going to get a ton of the touches. He's going to get probably 80-plus targets in the passing game, which could make him top 5 upside. I love him. I like Dalvin Cook this year, not as much as McKinnon. A lot of people have Cook earlier, but we only have a 4-game sample size, and I think Lat Murray is going to touch the ball more than everybody thinks he is. Mm-hmm. I think that my brother, who bleeds purple, agrees that Lat Murray's not going to just sit and hold the clipboard.
Right.
They actually paid him a lot of money to be their starter, and then they went out and drafted Cook, and Cook ended up being way better than anybody thought. Yeah. And they needed Cook because Lat Murray was hurt at the beginning of last year. We don't know the market share right now. Lat Murray was hurt and literally got activated the game that Dalvin Cook got out. Mm. We don't know what's going to happen when they both get out on the field. I say that this is Cook's team, but I think that Lat Murray's going to get a ton more targets, especially on the goal line, touches on the goal line than everybody thinks. And I think Dalvin Cook is amazing. He averaged 100 all-purpose yards in those 4 games, but it's a small sample size, and that team's going to go places this year.
Yeah.
And if they've got a guy here that they're paying $3 million a year and he's more of a veteran, I mean, they're going to let this other guy transition off of the big injury. I mean, Cook had a huge injury. It's kind of like the Wentz situation. I see Nick Foles playing more football than anybody thinks because, he's great and they're not going to want to push him back. I don't think the team's going to want to push Dalvin Cook back either. I'm not calling for a bad year. I'm just saying my expectations are a little tempered on people. I've seen him in the top 10.
Yeah.
I know it could happen. I just he's not one of the ones that I'm super excited about. Next is the unsexy Jordan Howard, but I think he could benefit most from that new system with Matt Nagy and the Bears. And he finished like number 10 last year, number 12 the year before that, number 14. Like he's kind of like Devontae Freeman. I think he's only had 2 years, but they've both been right in that range.
I feel like Howard's consistent. I've watched him.
Very much so.
He kind of he's not exciting to watch, but he'll get it in there every now and then.
He's very much so just consistent. The poor thing's got bricks for hands. That's the big problem.
And he doesn't he doesn't make a lot of moves. Like I don't see him like really juke anybody.
How is he this consistent and ranked this high with the 2 things we just said about him? You were just like, you kind of shrugged and you were like, he doesn't really move. And I was like, yeah, he's got hands for bricks, whatever. He still gets it done. And this is going to be as bad as down as I am on this team. They're going to be better than they've been. And he's going to get a ton of the market share. Christian McCaffrey's next. He's gained 6 pounds. I think Norv Turner or somebody over there said that they're going to give him the ball 20 to 25 touches per game.
Right.
So I tweeted out like R.I.P. Christian McCaffrey, like he's going to die. But it's a good team and he's explosive. And PPR back, he's a great pick right here.
Right.
Joe Mixon, the next one's the one I'm excited about. He from Oklahoma. Just amazing. Run through guys in college. Ran through guys last year. Was the fastest guy on the field last year. But that offensive line was so bad, and they lost a bunch of people. And also Jeremy Hill was there. In the beginning of the year, they were starting Jeremy Hill. And Jerick McKinnon didn't become the starter till halfway through the season. His yards per carry went up. I mean, actually, if you double that when he was the starter, like, he would have had a good year. He would have had 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. He does catch the ball.
For Mixon, right?
Yeah, Joe Mixon.
Okay, because I thought you said McKinnon, I think.
Joe Mixon, yeah.
Just wanted to make sure, because, like, getting thrown off a little bit. But maybe, no, you're good. No, you're
Jeremy
good.
Hill is gone.
I think you just misspoke, but it's good.
Jeremy Hill is gone. Giovanni Bernard is still there, but this is Joe Mixon's team. They also went and got the offensive line coach from the Cowboys. Remember we were talking about the great Cowboys offensive line? They just got their offensive line coach. They drafted Billy Price as a center, like the Lions drafted Luke Ragnow to iron up and shore up that line, and then they went and picked up some other guy too from Clemson. They're going to be better, and he's going to be better. And Joe Mixon was just a beast. I mean, he's good at football. You got to look at talent. Mm-hmm. You got to, sometimes people in this industry say he passed the eye test.
Yeah.
You'll hear the footballers say that.
I love that move, and I love that idea, because I say that all the time.
You don't, guys who were burned by him last year are going to be like, I'm not drafting him again. He's that guy that don't worry about what he did last year. He's in a better situation. Jeremy Hill's not there to take the touches away anymore. They got a better, the best offensive line coach. They drafted a guy. They went and got another guy for the offensive line. I mean, this is a different situation. That's what I talk about in my draft guide. I mean, hate players that you don't like because they're always bad. Feel free to do that. Feel free to do that to people that are always suck. Well, I'm not getting him. He's never good.
Yeah.
But allow for the situation to change. He's not splitting time anymore. Better offensive line, better coach. So I really like Joe Mixon there. After him is LaShawn McCoy. We talked about him earlier. Yep. I think we can move past that. Alex Collins is next. He's Baltimore's starting running back. He was the guy that Seattle's just cut.
Yeah. So who's that guy again?
Alex Collins. He played last year and did very, very well in the 6 or 7 games that he started. He steps really high.
Yeah.
He can blow through blocks. He can catch the ball as well. I think that team is going to be better at football. Joe Flacco has been statistically really bad for as much money as they paid him, but now they've got Lamar Jackson that they drafted from Louisville, and everybody's itching for Lamar Jackson to get in there. So, now Flacco's having his best camp ever, of course.
I want to see Lamar Jackson.
They lit the fires. I do too, and I think Alex Collins's situation. Just remember this. If I forget to say something later, if he starts playing and you could trade for him or whatever, he's gonna, I think, skyrocket when Lamar Jackson gets out there, because quarterbacks that run are very good for running backs. It
always goes that way.
Symbiotic relationship. So Collins is going to get every chance to be the number one guy. That team's going to be better. They don't have any wide receivers. It's really weird. They're all their wide receivers left, and they've got a whole new group, and they're all pretty good. They've got Michael Crabtree, who I like, but he's now the number one. I mean, I kind of liked him when he was more of a number two in San Fran and Oakland. They went and got Willie Snead from the Saints because he was suspended last year, and Sean Payton said, "Get out of here."
What the hell that was about?
And John Brown, who has the sickle cell trait, and he was always so great for the Cardinals when he played, but he gets hurt a bunch. They went out and got all those guys. So enter Alex Collins.
Yeah,
enter Alex Collins as Steady Eddie, getting a ton of targets in the passing game. He's my number 17. They're all kind of still in this same tier. The next rookie, so Saquon Barkley. Everybody wants to know, well, who's your next rookie? Everybody's top rookie running back is Saquon Barkley. And guys, if you're still listening, thanks for tuning in today. And this is going to be the most important thing I say all day. This is the best crop of rookie running backs that we've seen in quite some time. And it's not going to be next year. Next year, there's some great wide receivers out there. This was a good year for quarterbacks. This is a very good year for running backs. Some of them went into situations where I think they're going to get more touches and touches early. Some of them we're going to have to wait on because coaches are old school, and a guy that's a veteran that they've given money to, they're going to want to put him out there. They feel better about him. Some of these guys, the coach is going to be like, fucking let her rip, dude.
Yeah.
They're going to tell Darius Geist to let her rip. And the first time you see his name and say it, you're going to want to say Juice.
Yeah.
Because it looks like juice. But it's not juice. Geis, and he's not my number 2 just because this is juice in the morning. Darius Geis is # good at football,
and I'm gonna draft him just because of that.
Absolutely. You should, because you can come out with some really fun names like for your team, the Juicy Twins. Yeah. I don't know. He's really good.
The juice is loose.
He runs through people. He is a prototypical running back. He's got the size. He's got the speed. He's got the elusiveness. He's got a team that likes him. He fell in drafts because there was some stuff like nobody knew why he was falling on draft day. Like, what happened? What'd this guy do? And there was like rumors and whispers that he had an attitude. I guess, like he got asked one of those questions, like, what would you do if your mom was a prostitute or what? Like, seriously, they asked some really crazy shit.
Asinine questions. Yeah. That's insane. That's stupid.
And what I think happened was one of these owners and coaches, they sat down and you're probably in a room with 3 guys and they all ask what they want. And one of them asked one of those moron questions. And you know what? NFL, quit allowing teams to ask their players inappropriate questions. This is about the job. Now, if you want to know about their off-field activities, then certainly you are allowed into their personal life to know whether he's popping bottles and doing stupid shit. Right. I get that. But to ask him, like, seriously, that was like a question a few years ago. Like what would you do if your mom had to strip to make your way through your way through college? If somebody was asked
that in an actual job interview,
go fuck yourself.
You'd lose your job.
Go fuck yourself. So that's why he fell in draft day, and Washington said, "Hey man, we like that. We're not going to ask you any of those questions. Come play for us." He loves that they're going to let him be him.
Right.
He loves that they're not going to look at just a couple stupid things. Like he basically came out and said, "Look, I don't do drugs. I've never hit a woman. I didn't I didn't stand up on the cafeteria table and announce, Semper Fi, freaking Deshaun Watson did, when he was in college.
Didn't steal any lobsters.
And Deshaun Watson did not announce Semper Fi. When it got to that moment, I forgot what he said. But I remember he said something really stupid.
He said something political.
But his point was, I'm good at football and just teams didn't like my attitude. Well, the Redskins are like, use that. All those guys that passed on you because he fell, use that, and we want to use you. And only Bo Jackson has averaged more yards per carry against SEC opponents in college football history. So I'm going to repeat that stat one more time because it's very important. The SEC is the closest thing to judging NFL talent that we have in college, because a lot of these teams play maybe 1 or 2 high-profile teams, or maybe nobody. You see a guy get 64 touchdowns in college, and you're like, damn, he's great. And he played for University of College, Air Force, next door, diaper exchange university. This guy played
and their opponents,
against
the school for the blind,
SEC opponents, and averaged 7 yards per carry, which is the best in history besides Bo Jackson, and Bo Jackson was very good at football. Yep. I've got a bunch more on Darius Geis, but geez, I'm going to drop the mic on that. He's my number 2 ranked rookie, and in dynasty leagues, I would get him. Jay Ajayi's going to sneak in between. There's a bunch of rookies here. Jay Ajayi's going to sneak in there because that team's very good. They're going to give him a lot of work. I've talked about this a bunch. He is missing cartilage in one of his knees, so one of his knees has no cartilage. So eventually, that's going to come home to roost, and it'll just be done. And God love him for sticking with it and doing what he can now. I think he's really good. I think it was weird last year because they traded him, and the team wasn't ready to really go all in on him. I think they're going to go all in on him now. LeGarrette Blount is gone.
Right.
LeGarrette Blount was the big thing that killed Ajayi. Ajayi went from having 20 touchdowns for the Patriots to a fourth of that. I can't remember what he had, but most of it was because LeGarrette Blount was getting those goal line touches. He's gone, so Jay Ajayi's on a good football team, and he's going to get the goal lines now, so I like him. Next is Sony Michel. He's the reason why we skipped ahead to running backs. He's my number 3 rookie running back ranked, and that's high. A lot of people don't have him that high. You can't trust the Patriots running backs. You can't trust the Patriots.
You seem like you don't believe that.
Well, they had a number 10 running back in PPR last year in Dion Lewis, and they had a number 9 PPR running back in Mike Gillislee the year before that. He didn't even catch any passes. He just scored 300 touchdowns. The reality is they've had 2 number 1 running backs the last 2 years. That's the stupidest argument, too, that I've heard. And I hear stuff, and people tweet stuff out, and people are like, oh, yeah, running. All right. They're number 3. I talked about this earlier. They're number 3 in targeting that position in the passing game in the league. They're number 10, top 10 perennially in goal line touches for running backs. And they drafted him 2 spots behind the guy that he ran behind in college, Isaiah Wynn, Georgia Bulldog. They drafted him, and then they drafted Sony Michel 2 picks later. Very early. Surprised the hell out of everybody. That sounds like a calculated move to you. They drafted the blocking guy that blocked for him in college.
It's New England.
2 picks before him. It's because they do smart shit, right? So is Rex Burkhead going to be their top guy? I mean, yes, Rex Burkhead might actually get more goal line touches than Sony Michel. That's what they're saying right now. I don't believe it. But Sony Michel is all these running backs that they've had over the last 5 years swirling around, that this one does this and this one does this and this one does this, and they're all niche players. He's all of those things. He's amazing. Watch him. He played at Georgia last year and scored 16 touchdowns sharing the ball with Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Like, that was a committee.
Somebody to hang your hat on.
So on a high-profile, high-explosive college team, he was in a committee, and he still was very successful and got 16 touchdowns next to a great guy.
Right.
You're worried about him being on a committee in the best team in football next to Rex Burkhead?
Right.
You got to be out of your mind. Draft this guy. Draft Sony Michel and don't look back. Yes, he could bust, and this is one of my ride or dies this year, okay? But, and I know he's a Patriot, and all the Colts are just rolling their eyes right now going, oh, all my Colts fans, all my buddies, guys, this is when you need to separate life. Like, I hate that I'm saying this because he's a Patriot, but they're good at what they do, and they made a calculated move here. I think part of it might be because Tom's getting a little older, and they're seeing that if they need to
gotta run
3 more years out of him, they're going to need to run the ball more. So you're down with that, right?
Yep.
Next guy is Kenyon Drake. I don't love him. He's an avoid kind of guy. He's basically Alex Collins in Miami, and Miami sucks. And they have Frank Gore.
Yeah.
And Frank Gore is one of those players that, like, he's going to keep playing football and
play until the wheels fall off.
He could be the top guy on this team this year. And they also drafted like an Alvin Kamara prototype, Kalen Ballage.
Yeah.
So I don't see Kenyon Drake being that workhorse guy. I think Ballage could be the Alvin Kamara 2.0. I think Gore's still ready to play football. God love him. He was in camp today practicing.
That's crazy.
He's 35. I think that's more amazing than Tom and Drew being 40.
Oh yeah,
they're 40, but he's 35 as a running back.
And
that's
a running
amazing.
back just gets beat the shit out of him every game.
I don't like Kenyon Drake, and he's kind of in the middle of all these running backs. These guys are much more exciting. The next guy is a running back that I like a lot, Royce Freeman, going to Denver. They got Case Keenum, huge upgrade at quarterback. They drafted the other Chubb, Bradley Chubb, to be with Von Miller. So that's like their bookends. Like, remember Freeney and Mathis? Yep. That's their idea of Freeney and Mathis. So they've got a really experienced, good defense that got better. They've got Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders that can spread the field, and Case Keenum to throw him the ball. And Royce Freeman, like, he has to beat out Devontae Booker.
Right.
Like, Devontae Booker couldn't beat out C.J. Anderson last year. You mean to tell me he's going to get a ton of looks? Royce Freeman in Oregon was a starter all 4 years. So in dynasty leagues, I might say that he's going to maybe not have that long of a career because he's already had a ton of touches.
Holy shit. Yeah,
4
years.
He started all 4 years. He got 6,400 all-purpose yards and 64 touchdowns in 4 years in Oregon.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they're not playing the SEC every week, but Oregon's a pretty, high-profile school. Royce Freeman can do it all. That team's better. That's a rookie that I think is going to be really, really, really good this year. Some of the rookies I'm getting ready to talk about are some that people really like, but I just don't think they're in as good as situations. Lamar Miller's going to squeeze in there because, like I said, Deontay Foreman's going to start on the pup. They didn't draft any of these guys. I'm so surprised they didn't. They've got an amazing defense. They've got Deshaun Watson and Nuke and Will Fuller.
Yeah.
All they needed to do was draft any one of these guys that went in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round, and they're all great, and they didn't.
Yeah.
It's dumb because Lamar Miller like breaks down at the end of the game. Like, you want a running back that like churns out yards and does better at the end of games. Like, remember Adrian Peterson would have like 16 carries for 23 yards
every time,
and then like his next carry would be 77 yards, and then he would just start roasting him. Yeah. Like, Lamar Miller's not going to do that. He's going to actually like his production will diminish. Like, he's like the Russian dolls that come out. He just gets tinier as the fucking game goes on. So I like Deontay Foreman to come in for him, but I like Lamar here just because of volume. And this is one of those unsexy plays that if these other guys are drafted, he's gonna get a.
And I like Lamar Miller just from other years that I've owned him.
He's gonna get a good look.
Once again, back to the I look at the other years I've had guys.
Yeah, he's going to get a good look. I mean, I'm surprised if you've had him a bunch that you don't have him on the do not draft list because he gets a lot of soft tissue issues.
Right. Well,
and like those soft tissue things linger.
He's tended to do well early on for me, and then I usually end up trading him or doing something.
His game is like his season. He'll start out good and he'll fall out, and his individual games are like that too. As his games, it's crazy. His yards per carry just diminish as the game goes on. He's not a workhorse back. I think Miami, as bad as they are, knew that, and they got rid of him. They're like, no, go ahead. He's not a 25.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah, he's not a 25 touch a game guy. Duke Johnson for PPR is here. He signed like a $12 million contract with them. And they've got a lot more weapons now. And the thing is, I mean, they did draft Chubb and they did go and get Carlos Hyde. But Duke Johnson has his role. And it's going to be 55 to 75 catches. In PPR, that's great. It's not a sexy pick, but he's a pass-catching specialist. He's carved out that role. And in PPR formats, it's gold. I mean, Duke Johnson is gold. He's going to be in that 18 to 25 range overall. Mm-hmm. And
he's one that I've always been like, oh, I'm glad somebody else took him because I was thinking about taking him, but now I don't have to even worry about it.
He's that guy you don't want to take, but some of these players are that guy, and they could still be great for you because it just depends on when they fall. Like I said, don't hate players, hate ADPs. Yeah. So if he falls, like you see, I've got him ranked number 24, and all of a sudden in your draft you're looking and 30 running backs are gone, and you're like, well, geez, this is way later than Paul had him ranked. Like, this is value time, right? That's when you take him, all right? Tevin Coleman's in a contract year. I think Atlanta's going to try and squeeze a bunch out of him. He's number 25.
Money year.
Yeah, money year. IU Hoosier.
Get that money.
Shout out to the IU Hoosier.
Yep.
Tevin Coleman, he's very, very, very good at football. And a great dynasty pick. I can think of... Michael Turner, remember, was always behind LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yep.
And then in his contract year, he went to Atlanta, and he was amazing. I could see that happening, except for an exit. Tevin Coleman's really good, and he's going to lead a backfield next year and be amazing. But the team's going to want to squeeze the last drops out of him. Yep. You have that theory. This is your contract year theory that I subscribe to. I've seen it a lot of times. I think they are going to try and use him, and he's going to be happy to show off his talent so he could sign a big contract. And he might shave some of those looks away from Devontae Freeman. And they also trade injuries back and forth.
Yep.
So there'll be a couple games that he'll start, and God, he is so startable when Freeman's out. Last year in DraftKings, he was priced at $5,500 one week, and Freeman was out, and we blasted it out on the YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel and on Facebook, we were like, "Go get that Tevin Coleman. He's starting this week. This is a no-brainer." And he had 120 all-purpose yards and a touchdown and 6 catches. I mean, so there's value there. Rashad Penny is a rookie that's in this range here, right after Tevin Coleman. He's one that a lot of people have as their number 2 behind Saquon Barkley, and he's the Seattle guy. And God, can I say more bad things about Seattle before you? I mean, again, their running back by committee ran for 1 rushing touchdown.
And what I've said before is that Pete Carroll's running that college offense, and it worked. That I don't think it's working anymore.
Jackson made the best tweet the other day. He actually texted it to me, and I was like, that's a tweet. And so send that out. And he sent it out. He was like, I'm starting to feel like when he was in, wasn't USC?
Yep.
And because he's a big USC fan, so he just saw that they were swagalicious and all the shit, and that the swags just left the building.
Right.
And the same thing happened at USC, and that's happened here now. Their defense is gone. Their offensive lineman literally last year was a couple converted defensive linemen. I'm not even joking.
That's insane.
And they let Alex Collins go. They cut this man. They had him for free, basically, as an NFL contract, and they cut him, and now he's starting for the Baltimore Ravens. You want to trust their judge of talent. Like I said earlier, I think Pete Carroll's guy is Chris Carson, and the Office's guy is Rashad Penny, and that's going to battle it out. And now the Office has already come out and said that this other CJ Procise is going to be the 3rd down back. Well, shit, if Chris Carson's taking his 1st and 2nd downs away from him, and this other guy's the 3rd down back, and they can't punch it in because their line sucks and their defense sucks, so they're going to be on the field a bunch and tired, and hey, they have to.
I'm staying away from the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah. Hey, you just concisely said we're Hey, Paul, it's getting late. You can just say like, don't draft any Dolphins, any Jets, don't draft the Seahawks. I mean, the truth of the matter is, though, I like Wilson and Baldwin a lot.
You do.
So I wouldn't say don't draft any of them, but that's because they're going to have to throw a bunch. I think Rashad Penny. Now, I am calling for a bust. I've said this a couple times. I don't want to be on the fence on this one because I've said before, hey, I'm not saying he's going to bust. I just don't like him where they're saying I say this guy busts.
He busts.
Yes. Dion Lewis is the pass catching specialist for Tennessee that came from New England, and he's paired up with Travis Henry. There's a great tweet the other day because Dion Lewis is like 5'3" and Travis Henry is like 6'3", and they were standing next to each other. They were like, cue the like twins, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like Danny DeVito from Twins. But the reality is that Dion Lewis was way more efficient on the goal line than Henry was. So everybody's like, okay, well, what do you think's going to happen here? This guy's going to get a bunch of passes thrown this way, and this guy's going to pound in the rock and get all the touchdowns. Okay, they got a new offensive coordinator, LaFleur, is going to run the ball more, and I just don't see it that way because, like, I don't like Henry. Like, he's one of those guys, you know, you just have those guys who are like, I just don't like him.
He's somebody that I am in
I don't
the
like
same
him.
boat with you.
I don't like him. And, like, last year was very deceiving because he had a couple big runs in games where the game was done and everybody was like, all right, go ahead, Travis, get your 50-yard touchdown. One of them was against us.
Yeah.
The game was over, and he just busted it, and he was, like, high-stepping. Everybody was like, really? The game's over? Go ahead. All right. And he had a couple of those, and it really skewed his stats. Like 100 yards on 2 carries, which is literally what I'm talking about. For a guy that rushed for 700 yards for the year, like if you like stat that out, they're saying, oh, well, he did that in split time. Well, guess what? He's still splitting time with Dion Lewis. And Dion Lewis, even though he's half his size and could fit in his pocket, is better at football.
Oh, yeah.
So just big isn't going to cut it.
I think that's a very good just like statement for the podcast is this guy's good at football.
This guy's good at football. Derrick Henry is right behind him in the rankings, and I have him a lot lower than most because of that reason. He's on my avoid list. Mark Ingram's on my avoid list. People are going, man, like, don't you want to get him and hold on to him until week 7?
Yeah,
because he's suspended for 4 games. They have a bye week 6.
He's not going to be getting hot right away.
They have a bye week 6, so I know that they're not going to give him a bunch of touches week 5. Sean Payton hates him.
Yeah,
they were yelling at each other last year. I think he could. You're gonna if you want to draft him. Bottom. Yeah, if you draft him, you're gonna want him to get traded.
Fall to the bottom.
Otherwise, you just have to wait. You can't put him on your IR slot. There's no IR for suspended players. Moves into a next tier now. Rex Burkhead. So Rex Burkhead is going undrafted, and this is crazy to me. I mean, as much as I like Sony Michel, like what I said earlier, is Rex might lead this team in goal line touches, and he will get work. And they signed him for a contract. So don't think that taking Rex Burkhead in the 12th round is a bad idea. It's a good idea because they're a really, really good team, and they're going to throw it to him. He's going to get goal line touches. He's going to get work. Like, that's another thing that people do. They go, oh, man, they like my mentality of, oh, they drafted Michelle so early, so they're going to use him. Yes, that's true, but we all know that New England's never going to be a team like the Rams or like the Steelers that just give it to one guy.
The same guy the whole game.
And he's the number 2 guy. And the other guys are Mike Gillislee, who's still in cement shoes from when he fumbled a bunch. We haven't seen anything from him since he like fumbled 3 times and Bill Belichick like sent him to Gitmo. And like Jeremy Hill, like earlier I said Jeremy Hill's not on the Bengals anymore. Jeremy Hill went there.
Yeah,
not too excited about that, but I think Burkhead will get a lot of work. PPR specialist for the Redskins, Chris Thompson, is in this tier. Kerryon Johnson is another rookie we really like. They got Luke Ragnow in Detroit. That team is really good. I think that this is the best running back they've had in a while. Kerryon Johnson is a huge sleeper. I mean, he's tier 4 for me right now, but he could easily make it up into that tier with Dion Lewis and Rashad Penny and Tevin Coleman and all those guys. And then Nyheim Hines. I'm only going to talk about a few more running backs, but Nyheim Hines is a sleeper this year. He is our Alvin Kamara prototype here in Indianapolis. He, at NC State, started out as a wide receiver and was converted to a running back in his junior year. So he played split duty. So people were saying, oh, well, he can't run in between the tackles. Well, I watched the tape, and he can. And then also I tweeted out to somebody, they were like, oh, he can't run between the tackles. And I was like, well, really? Well, then why'd they move him from wide receiver to running back?
Yeah.
If he's a wide receiver, then he's a wide receiver.
Yep.
he can do both. That's why they moved him. So don't tell me he can't run between the tackles. I'm not sold on Marlon Mack. He did play through shoulder surgery. God, I fucking such a hard time saying that. He did play through that last year, and he only got like 100 touches. I'm not convinced that he's going to be the guy. I think Jordan Wilkins will actually be like the grinder in between the tackles guy, and these other guys are going to get moved around. They're moving Hines into the slot. They're moving him out wide like they did with Kamara, and that's when they had Kamara and Ingram on the field at the same time. You'll see that a lot. You'll see Wilkins or Mack, and then you'll see Hines going out. And also, if your league gives you points for returning kicks, and they should, he's also going to be the punt returner too.
I'm curious to see about that, because that's another thing that is draft day advice. Like, people complaining about changing rules and things like that. That's something that happens a lot, but it's also sometimes it's necessary to make the league better and more fun for other people.
Right, and it's not going to happen a bunch. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Nyheim Hines might get 2 this year, so it's not going to be that big.
And I'm not wanting to cut you off, but I do have to go to the restroom. So what I want to do is let's see if we can maybe
Let me just start on wide receivers.
Yeah.
You go take a piss.
Yeah, you do that,
right.
And then let's try to get through those, because like I said, also we are hitting it at like 2:30, 2 hours and 30 minutes, and I know that I said kind of no time limit, but we are getting kind of to that point where it's hard for me to keep up anymore.
Okay.
just letting you know.
We only have wide receivers left. Why don't you go to the bathroom?
And I know, and I also know that, just to let people know listening, that this was planned to be very long, so that people can go back and listen to it and kind of hear these things before the season.
We've got all month to listen to it. So
just letting you guys know that as well.
Even I don't want to listen to me talk for 2.5 hours.
No, I'll be right back. I'm going to go under here.
So if I went through on wide receivers, guys, there's a couple more guys here. Ronald Jones is a rookie for Tampa Bay that everybody likes. I don't like him. I'm not drafting Marshawn Lynch. I'm not drafting Chris Carson. And I'm kind of low on Marlon Mack. To be honest with you, the Colts fans aren't going to want to hear that, but I'm low on Marlon Mack. Moving into wide receivers, Antonio Brown's on his own tier, and he's amazing. So, I mean, you could take him really number 1 overall and just walk away, and nobody can really say anything. I mean, he's averaged 1,568 yards, 116 catches, and 10 touchdowns for like 5 years in a row. I mean, like, no one wide receiver did like any of those things last year. I mean, he's just so amazing. So he's his own tier. DeAndre Hopkins starts the second tier. Nuke is amazing. And what impressed me last year is that there were so many different quarterbacks throwing to him. He got it done with, Brock Osweiler and Trevor Siemian. I mean, just these horrible quarterbacks. And when Watson was out there, he liked throwing to him too. And Nuke is the guy. He's the generational talent. He's amazing. Odell Beckham is right there, and like these guys are all interchangeable. DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham, Julio Jones, they're all great. You could really make an argument for any of those guys to be in that slot. They're all the focuses of their offense. They're all really, really, really good at football. So tier 3, Michael Thomas, like no wide receiver has caught more receptions in their first 2 years than Michael Thomas, and he has Drew Brees throwing him the ball. So I've got him higher than most, but I think he can creep into that Odell range like really quickly.
Sorry about that, buddy.
That's fine. Like Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham. Julio Jones,
the top guys.
Yeah, they're just right behind him because if he's healthy, he's amazing. And like it's crazy because week 7 last year, like Phillip Rivers remembered that he was great, and he started just blowing him up. I mean, Keenan Allen stayed healthy all year, but like he really blew up at the end of the year, and that's a PPR guy.
Keenan Allen's a guy that I don't like, and I know that he's. I mean,
I don't either. Like I told Jackson that last year, I was like, "Go ahead, take him," and Jackson took him and took the trophy too. So that's the thing. You got to get over that kind of shit. Devontae Adams is next because he's Aaron Rodgers' number 1 target, and Jordy Nelson is gone. I mean, he's never had more than 75 catches. He's never had more than 1,000 yards. But he will get 10 touchdowns. I mean, just think about that. It's amazing. He could get 15 touchdowns. He's going to be in that number 1 offense and the number 1 wide receiver. Devontae Adams is definitely worth that top pick right in with those guys. The only thing is, I mean, if you do like A.J. Green or Doug Baldwin to catch more passes, like Devontae Adams is not going to be a big PPR guy. He's touchdown dependent is what we call that. If he doesn't have a big touchdown year, he won't have a big touchdown year. He won't have a big fantasy year. Julio's not touchdown dependent. Julio Jones only had 3 last year.
Yeah, and that's insane because he was still he was still so good.
I saw all these stats.
People were so pissed because he wasn't scoring touchdowns. That
was such an outlier. He usually gets 6 to 8, and like all the statistics, I saw all this stuff. I mean, all this geeked up shit, and like one of them was showing like basically everything pointed to the fact that like with everything he got, he should have got 8 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And he only got 3, but that didn't mean he had a bad year. Devontae Adams and Mike Evans and those type of players, they're players where if they don't have a bunch of touchdowns, they might have a bad year.
Yep.
But it's Aaron Rodgers, so I'm okay with banking on his touchdowns. AJ Green is next. He has been declining a little bit, but you can't pass on him. You know he's going to get 90 catches.
He's a high floor, medium ceiling guy now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's going to always do pretty decent, but he's also, I don't see him like blowing up for.
But he did have a game last year, and
like 15 times.
Jackson texted me because like it was against the Bills, and their top cornerback got hurt like the day before, and he was like, "Dude, AJ Green's gonna go off because their corner's down," and he did. He roasted him for like 9 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. He still has that game,
so he can.
So he still has that game winner too. Yeah. Like that'll win your week.
Yeah.
So he still has that game-winning week game in him. Right after him is Doug Baldwin. We talked about him earlier. I think he has a career year.
Really like Doug Baldwin always.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. And like after, Russell Wilson gets done with those crazy 8s and spinning out of the, eluding the pocket, if he decides not to run, he's going to throw it to Doug Baldwin. I think he has a career year, and like no one has a better catch rate. He has the lowest drop rate in the NFL since 2015.
Oh, wow.
3 consecutive years with the lowest drop rate in the league.
Is Golden Tate close to that? I would. Yeah, they seem like very similar players.
They don't drop the ball, and it's amazing they have to stay in the play so long. Yeah. These guys are running around for 45 seconds while Russell Wilson figures out what he's going to do, and they still catch the ball. Yep. It's amazing. I think it's because
aren't they even like? I feel like even they're built the same kind of like Golden Tate and why can't I? Anyways,
Golden Tate and Doug Baldwin.
There you go.
All those guys. Next is Tyreek Hill. His big playability. We talked about that earlier. If your league, awards for big plays, he's amazing. And I don't think Watkins is going to hurt his value. So
you advocate for a league with big play bonuses?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit is
makes
fun.
it more fun.
Yeah, a little bit. You can get too crazy.
Yeah,
like you can make settings get crazy
insanely. Like,
yeah, I've seen defense settings turned up, and then the defenses are scoring 20, and it's like Jesus.
And I've seen settings where like people are in like their total score for the week's like 350 points, and it's like, oh my
come
God.
On. I am going to start going fast because I did not realize it was 2.5 hours. Right after Tyreek is Larry Fitzgerald. He'll let you know when he's done playing football. Until then, these efficient quarterbacks are just going to keep shoving the pigskin down his throat till he starts like.
And he's going to keep scoring too.
Yeah. And he's amazing. And this is the greatest thing about him. The 3 best seasons he's ever had for catches have been the last 3 seasons.
Ooh,
107, 109, and
breaking
109.
News.
What?
From Jackson?
What?
Baldwin got hurt today in practice, out a couple weeks.
Oh, Jackson is like 911, dude. You're talking about.
That's like.
See, there you go. That's why this team is so effective, and Jackson really is the heart that drives this. I had no idea. I do see my phone flashing now. He's been desperately trying to quit talking about Doug Baldwin. Did he say he's like out, or he just got hurt?
It just says out a couple weeks in our group text.
Thanks, Jackson. You are the best supporting cast I could possibly.
I can't wait to have him on here.
I hope to be able to pay him someday. Right?
Yeah, I hope to.
Right now, he's doing this all for free. Okay, so Doug Baldwin got hurt. Maybe he slips in our rankings a little bit. Larry Fitzgerald is great. 107, 109, and 109 the last 3 years in catches.
There you go.
I mean, that's amazing. Stephon Diggs, I've got him way higher than most. Adam Thielen did better than him in fantasy football last year. Diggs usually misses a couple games. I hope he plays all. I mean, you always want to project your guy to play the whole year, except for Jordan Reed and Robin Gronkowski, in which case they won't.
Yeah.
But Stephon Diggs got 0.5 more fantasy points per touch than Thielen last year, which means if he gets more, he's going to get a lot more. And he got 48% of his fantasy production on deep throws. Now that,
do you think Cousins is going to have a a good rapport with him, or do you think he's going to go?
Already has.
Thielen?
Already has. I mean, they're both going to do well. These guys are really got an upgrade at quarterback. This is going to be fun because these guys both had great years. With half of the year was Case Keenum and the other half was Teddy Bridgewater, I think.
Yeah.
And they still did great because they're great at football. But Cousins has the number 2 deep throw percentage in the year. So you've got a guy that got almost half of his fantasy points on the deep throw, now paired with a quarterback that is the second best deep thrower in the league. So Stephon Diggs, I think, is going to level up.
It's going to be a big year then.
I think that Thielen just had his career year, and he had a great year. I don't think that Stephon Diggs has had his career year yet.
Okay. Do you and I'm very interested in it because I like Thielen because I had him last year. We keep thinking about don't think about last year, think about this year.
Yeah.
But
go ahead and take Thielen.
I
think they're both going to be great. I just think that this year Diggs does better.
And
than
Thielen is when the eye test, like he makes catches.
Oh yeah, he looks like Steve Largent.
He makes catches that most people don't make.
I was talking to my brother about that. He wears these yellow gloves, so he comes up the middle of the field and you just see these yellow gloves, and he catches everything like Steve Largent, and he's a hard ass, and he's very underrated for his toughness.
I'm fairly certain that I've seen like him get like rocked and he jumped up and got in the guy's face.
Yes.
Good hit or
yeah. Or
woo! Like, let's go.
Yeah. Like he's a slot guy. So those guys get punished and that's what I was just saying. His toughness is extremely underrated. He can go up the middle. That hurts. That bothers me too, though. I mean, those guys get hurt.
Yeah.
T.Y. Hilton finishes up this tier, and Luck's already hit him up a couple deep balls in practice, and that's what you want. You want those deep plays. This is another big play reward guy. He's boom or bust. He's like Julio Jones. He might get you 3 for 40 one week, but the next week when he gets you 8 for 144 and 2, you're good. And if Luck, comes back strong, and the thing I've been telling people is what I want to see is, does he throw that deep ball that first game? Like, is he just going to orchestrate some, tight drives and short drives? And we don't know yet if he's got that cannon. I'd love to see early him just unleash it, because if he does, T.Y. Hilton led the league in receptions.
Pull like a Peyton move where like young fast defense gets like a
first play,
gets a pick, and then like turns it over. And then the big thing with Peyton was, after a turnover, it's like almost always he went deep, right after,
because he looked at it like a free play.
Yeah, and so I want to see that like open the season like that. That would
be nice. That would be nice. You know that T.Y. Hilton's boom or bust, but the upside is just huge. It's absolutely huge. Yeah. Besides, like, they don't really have a whole lot of clarity at that position right now. Like, we don't even know who the number 2 is. Golden Tate. I love him. And PPR, he's going to get 90 catches, 1,100 yards, and a handful of TDs. He's so efficient. And, like, he does that. I think he's done that for 3 years now. So, Golden Tate, you might not be excited about picking him. But remember last year, I was like, yeah, dude, Golden Tate, you got a good team. And, like, Golden Tate was a big reason why I liked your team, because in a PPR, you could just throw him down in that second or third slot and forget about it, and he'll eat. Amari Cooper has a whole new regime now with Gruden going to Oakland. Gruden likes to target the wide receivers. They usually get like 30% of the offense as number 1 wide receivers. But with Cooper, I think that you're drafting what you want him to be instead of you're drafting, that potential.
Yeah.
And now that Michael Crabtree's gone, I think Jordy Nelson might be kind of on the. I'm not excited about that team. They went out and got Doug Martin.
And that's John Marchbank's team. The Raiders. The Raiders.
I'm just not excited. They haven't signed.
He loves the Raiders.
They haven't signed Khalil Mack.
Right. He's concerned about that.
Yeah, I would be. I mean, he's their best player. They went out and just, they got real excited, when Crabtree left and got, Jordy Nelson, and they got Doug Martin from Tampa Bay. These are old players.
John Marchbanks is very excited about Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, I mean, he's 2 years removed from having an amazing year, and
but I do like where you're at with him. I think he's going with his his home team is
he's going to run the ball,
the homer stuff.
He's going to run the ball.
Where you're like, oh man, my team's going to be really good this year.
If you're an Amari Cooper fan, you can get him at a discount this year. He's slipping a little bit more than he usually does. So if you like him, go ahead and get him. I'd rather have Demaryius Thomas, the next guy, because he's just perennially so great, and last couple of years has just had crap, and now he has Case Keenum again. So like, people are not talking enough about Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders.
Right. I had Emmanuel Sanders when he was the shit.
Well, he had 3 1,000-yard seasons in a row, like as the number 2. I mean, we were just talking about Thielen and Diggs, and now, so what's going to happen now with Case Keenum being in Denver? They've got a good defense. They've got a good running game.
Somebody made a good point that I listened to recently that said, like, they were like, so you're going to tell me that we're going to add a good player to a good offense, and you're going to tell me that's immediately going to hurt somebody, and like right away, like every time it's always going to hurt somebody's value.
Right.
No, it's not always going to hurt somebody's value.
No, you're right.
It's going to make people better around them.
Right.
So,
and everybody can reach their potential. I mean, that's what's happening with Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins right now. They're both great players. You shouldn't be sad if you're a Tyreek Hill dynasty owner because they got Sammy Watkins. He's not going to steal touches from him. If he gets a first down, that means that your team just got to play football for a longer period of time. So you could go to the website and get these. We're just going to finish out this tier. Demaryius Thomas. Like I said, Case Keenum in town. I think he gets back to greatness. Mike Evans, I have him way lower than most. I mean, a lot of people have him high still.
He's another guy that I don't take off, and I don't know why. Just when I see his name come across the board, I'm not going to lie, dude. There's a lot of times, and once again, it goes back to value, like where you're getting him. But a lot of times, I'll see his name, and then I'll see a couple other guys around it, and I'm like, I'm going to take those guys. I don't know. It just is.
No, I'm the same way.
And I've seen him not be successful certain weeks that he plays against me. So I'm like, all right, well, I made a good choice.
He's hot and cold. Jameis Winston's not that accurate. His deep ball accuracy is horrible. That's why Deshaun Jackson hasn't been able to do anything, because that's where he lives and they just cannot connect.
Yeah.
I don't think he's as good as football as everybody says he is, and that team's going to run. I looked at an interesting stat. Their win-loss percentage the last few years has been way better when they run 60% of the time.
And he does a really weird thing about eating a W. I don't understand.
I know.
That was the worst.
That was the worst.
Okay, good. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Mike Evans, we talked about touchdown dependency. He had 12 touchdowns his first year, then 3, then 12 again, then 5. So if it's his 12th year, okay, but I mean, that's not how things work. This is just kind of a coincidence. And with with Winston being suspended the first 3 games and Ryan Fitzmagic throwing the ball.
Oh.
And they're like, oh, Fitzmagic looks great in practice. Shut the fuck up.
God.
Like, your quarterback messed up. They talked about his kind of, his attitude and things he had done in college when they drafted him, and then he went and did something stupid and with the Uber driver. I don't even know. Like when shit like that happens, I don't know. It was assault or something with the Uber driver. I mean, it's just like I kind of tune out when I hear that shit because I just want to hear about football. And it just makes me go. It just makes me for a split second go, yeah, I remember when there were, people were worried about drafting him. And I think that he just hasn't done he's done this team a disservice, and he's not that accurate either. He's not that good either. So Mike Evans is way higher on most lists. He's that down on my list because of that catch rate, the touchdown regression, Jameis Winston not being there to play football to begin. Adam Thielen's right there. He's strong, man. I just have him a couple spots behind Diggs. If you want to take him before Diggs, that's what most of the fantasy community is doing. I just kind of looked inside those numbers.
Yeah, I have a hard time thinking like if they're available at the same moment that I'm not going to take Diggs over.
They're pretty much around the same time. So I'm just saying, like, this is something you might not want to go with me on. This is my call. This is something I've seen in the numbers that I'm calling for Diggs to leap him this year. But I ain't mad at you if you take Thielen. I'm sure you won't be disappointed.
Right.
Marvin Jones is amazing. He's great sidelines catcher. He's going to get a lot of work. What's rounding this out here is Brandon Cooks going to the Rams. I think he's going to be kind of a decoy. Like Watkins only got like 70 targets last year. Brandon Cooks lives in that like 110 to 115 target range, and he's had the two of the top 3 quarterbacks in football, and Drew Brees and Jared Goff isn't Drew Brees and Tom Brady. So, and that I think that position is to get people off the line so Todd Gurley can run. I don't think that he's going to get 100 looks. So I have him way lower than most. Juju's in here because he's amazing, and if any team can figure out how to sustain another fantasy star, it's Pittsburgh. He's only 21 years old. It's really amazing, and he's lining up in the slot. So I wanted to,
who's going to eat if Antonio Brown's not eating?
Him and James Washington. They drafted a guy, James Washington, and he'll be on the outside. But right now,
I never thought of the Steelers like that. Like, until recently that they they crank out good receivers.
Yeah. Yeah, and they've got another one in the wings right now, and he's so good that they've got him lining up on the outside with Antonio Brown so Juju can play in the slot.
Jeez.
That's why people are like, "Oh, he's going to get overdrafted. Whatever. He's going to play in the slot." Like he
They're
only had
destroy again.
I know.
They're just going to destroy again.
And he only had like 60 targets last year, and he was so efficient. I say he goes up to probably 85 targets, and geez, what's he going to do with another 20 targets? He's probably going to eat really, really well, and Antonio Brown will still do his thing, and Le'Veon Bell will still do his thing.
God, they're
like,
just stacked.
People are like, "Oh, Paul, you're crazy. This can't happen." Like, just that there's too many mouths to feed. That's not how football works. If you keep on the offense and you keep scoring, there's more scoring opportunities.
Score 50 points a game
for everybody. Yeah, and they'll throw up a 50 burger. Absolutely. So, yeah, we're about done. Sammy Watkins, Josh Gordon, Alshon Jeffrey, those guys are kind of all same value. Jarvis Landry, Allen Robinson, I'm calling for him to have a bad year. First year in Chicago, new offensive coordinator coming off of injury.
Is it just me, or do receivers not seem to do well in Chicago?
No, they don't.
Because didn't Brandon Marshall go there and then just disappear?
Die there? Yeah,
like disappeared.
No, they don't. They really don't. And like the thing about Allen Robinson, and
I guess Alshon Jeffrey had a good
he did. That's because they had Cuddy. They had Jay Cuddy like shoving this pig down his throat.
Who else? Like I can't name anybody else besides Brandon Marshall.
It's because there's not many.
Alshon Jeffrey.
It's because there's not many. That's why your brain's having a hard time because it just doesn't happen. Allen Robinson had 151 targets that amazing year that he had 80 catches and 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns. He had the same amount of targets the next year, same amount of opportunity, 151 targets again. And he had 8 less touchdowns, 600 less yards, and 7 less catches. So
what was he doing?
That's just telling me that it's a statistical outlier that if you had him that year, great. But
things were just rolling his way the first year.
Yeah, it's not going to happen again. So people want to get crazy about him. He's coming off injury, new team, new offensive coordinator. I'm not buying it. The rest you can get on paulysleepers.com. There's tons more. Like I stopped on every tier.
Oh yeah, dude.
And I had no idea we went 3 hours. Hey guys, just to let you know, I hope you are piecing this up. And for the season, our podcasts are going to be about an hour and a half.
Yep.
So this was the draft day special.
Yes.
And I hope you paused and probably took it in 3 chunks.
Yeah. And in the well, I'm not even going to explain it because you'll see it in the description. But yeah, this is the first edition, the mashup between the two shows, the two, I guess, content creators. I've already my mind's reeling. I've got a million questions, and we have hit 3 hours. So
we've got all season to talk about it.
I'm going to save them, and
we're going to do the draft on August 29th, and we're going to do a live podcast during the live online draft. If you won tonight, you have to log in 5 minutes beforehand, or one of these other alternates will get a team. And there's not going to be any auto drafts. Auto drafts suck.
And are we starting the standard once a week podcast next week? And we're gonna start.
No, we're gonna. The next one will be the draft.
The draft. Okay,
and then it'll start week 1.
That. And then
the next one will be the draft on the 29th. So we're pretty much taking this month off for podcasts.
And I will get us some stuff together. You guys are gonna get lot of news here and there from Pauly Sleepers on YouTube. Go to the site paulysleepers.com because you're gonna see that all the time. If you want to follow Pauly on Twitter, it's at Pauly Sleepers as well.
We've been having a blast on Twitter. To go in there and just look at some of the stuff I put up there.
We're gonna have some interviews with people. I'm gonna reach out to some people. Maybe we'll do some interviews maybe we won't take the whole month off, but we'll just bank some interviews where we talk to some people about football. And
that'll work.
We can just post it.
And then kind of put them all together.
Yep. And then, I think we've got a lot going on here, and you guys are going to enjoy it. The Listener League is going to be a blast. I hope to win a lot of money in the juicy lineups each week. And then, I'm excited. We got a lot going on. It's just such a great feeling to be getting back into football. I can't explain it.
It is. And we put a lot of work into this, so hopefully everyone out there,
the site's beautiful,
enjoys and tells me.
It works on mobile as well.
That's Jackson, man. He helped me get the Twitter up and running, and he helped me get the website up and running, and he's just awesome. I mean, he's a great person to help me with this dream and,
Yeah.
and this thing.
And if you have any questions, anything, don't hesitate to reach out on Gmail. It's juiceinthemorning@gmail.com. Juice in the AM on Twitter, Juice in the AM on Instagram. If you guys need anything, reach out. My DMs are always open.
All right.
Thanks for joining, Pauly. Let's do this. Have a good August. We'll see you the 29th on the draft.
Juice in the morning.